which looks like the intro of sex education because goddamn there are not just too many color, but also too many genders, which our ancestors probably did not see coming, because if they did, they would have chosen not to reproduce and control their urges to get laid. Anyways, it enters a new kind of realm, and the protagonist tells about how he got reincarnated into this other world. God knows how many anime I have seen where the main character is reincarnated into a new world, where he is a total winner, unlike y'all losers. He asks himself why he was chosen, and that God took his life by mistake but gave him a second chance. Then he shares about the goddess of reincarnation who is of great beauty, and that he is going to forget everything he knows about her, and how she used to look in exchange for a fresh start in this new strange world. The protagonist makes an extreme sacrifice. He gave up all memories of his former life. He selected his initial skills and traded them with his past memories. Then this protagonist addressed himself as Kelvin and embraced his new self for the opportunities that lay ahead. Kelvin gets teleported to a new world where he finds himself lying under a lush green forest and gets awakened by the cool breeze and the warm sunlight hitting on his face. As he woke up, he noticed the curious gaze of the jungle's animals. As he rubs his head in confusion, he wonders where is he when his thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of a holographic projection that looked like a menu card which was hovering in front of him, and it displayed the title saying "Welcome into another world." Below it appears a small button which says "Press to start adventure." Kelvin was still wondering what was going on, but still he pressed it. He just got teleported to a 1980s gaming console. After pressing it, suddenly an excited girlish voice greeted Kelvin from the holographic display and congratulated him just like today's modern-day AI, just like Jarvis, because he got the right to be reincarnated into this new world, and reminded him about the deal they had, i.e. his memories taken away in exchange for new skills, but she reassured him that it was taken with his consent. Obviously, Kelvin panics and wonders why he doesn't remember anything and starts blaming his past self why he did that. However, the voice guided him further about this world, that it is of swords and magic, and the skills he had chosen for himself before being reincarnated were already known to him. The voice requested him to look into the screen for further details. His current status made him think that he was somewhat of a supporting character, but the benefits for leveling up were great, which got him super excited for his adventures, and he sarcastically apologizes to his past self. The thing that excited him the most was his class, which was his summoner. Then the voice instructed him to head to a nearby town and get himself registered in the Adventurers Guild. The title of the show appeared on screen, Black Summoner, which shows the start of Kelvin's new journey. As Kelvin embarks on his new journey, he notices the presence of the holographic menu, which seems to be following his every footstep. Confused, he asked if it was accompanying him too. To his surprise, the menu cheerfully asked him back that did he not remember anything about her, and displayed him a profile of her revealing her identity to be Melfina, and reminded Kelvin of their past interactions, that he was the first person who asked her to be his follower, and requested him to take good care of her as she blushes and giggled. Frustrated from his forgotten past and seeing all this, Kelvin grabbed himself by his hairs and blamed his past self again, even though Melfina continued to guide him. Then she explained the unique bond or connection between a summoner and a follower, which is the reason they could communicate with each other without even the need to speak. Now, the screen cuts and is shifted to a town called the Town of Parth. As Kelvin walked and explored the town market, he seemed to be lost in his own thoughts. He told the viewers that in his past life he died in an accident due to a blunder made by a god, and that god then went to Melfina, the goddess in reincarnation, and requested her to fix such a problem. Kelvin confessed that the instant he laid his eyes on Melfina, he fell deeply in love with her, all as told by the holographic menu Melfina. He even got a girl in this new world, and your loser ass, even after 33 years, does not have one. Kelvin still wonders that he doesn't remember her except her voice. She kept telling him about how he proposed to her for almost an hour and asked her to form a pact with her after he picked up his skills. Melfina eventually agreed because she became bored from her job that she's been doing for hundreds of years, so she accepted his offer, further highlighting that gods need rest too, and that this would be like a vacation to her. Her work will be taken care of by her subordinates, so nothing wrong will happen, and it's been decades since she last went on a vacation. Even gods are having some fun too, leaving us to be the corporate slaves. All this made Kelvin wonder when he became so special in the eyes of a god that she is using his reincarnation as a means of her vacation, and again asked for his memories to be restored, but Melfina reminded him that it was his own decision to erase them. This angered him, and he thought about what he had said to the one he loved, and he feared that without his memories, his feelings would be lost too. Melfina replied to him that she will fall in love with him again with or without his memory, highlighting that such sweet and straightforward words touched her and made her agree to come with him. Poor Kelvin blushes and hides his face with his hands, requesting her to stop, feeling shy. Despite his memories erased, he thought his dark past had been read out loud in the market, exposing it in front of the people, so he ran out of it hurriedly towards a tree. After taking a moment, he calmed his breaths and wondered whether she was his type and what she used to look like as he stretched his back backwards. Kelvin then questioned her as he moves into the town if the pact has been made. Can he summon her right now? To which she gently replied that it is impossible at the moment because for this he needed way more NPs to be able to materialize her. He is only thinking about her, moment. She said that she is looking forward to his growth and innovative ways of confession just as they reached the Adventurers Guild. Even the goddess is interested in him, got blessed with some rees. As he entered the building, the reception had many female attendants who were busy guiding other adventurers as well. Kelvin stood in the line and patiently waited his turn. After a while, his turn came, and the female receptionist greeted him with a warm smile and asked what she could do for her. Kelvin said that he wanted to register himself as an adventurer. She replied no problem and handed him a form to fill and asked her if he needed any help. Kelvin thought to himself that he had already mastered their language when he was reincarnated, picked up a pen and filled up the form. Just as he started filling, the voice of Melfina spoke to him and asked him if he is going to register himself as a summoner, to which Kelvin questioned if that's a bad idea. Melfina instructed him that in this world the summoner is so rare that a country may or may not have one, and if word gets out that he's a summoner, then those with great political power will come after him. Kelvin understands that nothing good will come out from this and instead registers himself as a green mage. Then the female receptionist took his form and requested him to wait. Kelvin realized the potential danger if he revealed his summoner's ability. He decided it would be better to enjoy his freedom by keeping this summoner ability to himself only. Then the receptionist returned back and offered him his guild card while also explaining to him that since he is new in this trade, he will have to start from rank F, and that the guild receives quests from all places and then split them into different ranks for adventurers to undertake. Feels like they copied the Ninja Saga, but the weebs probably don't know what that is. Kelvin asked if he can only accept rank F quests now, to which she explained that he can also accept quests that are one rank above his own, and in case of failing a quest he will have to face a penalty. Kelvin thought that it would be reckless to challenge a higher rank quest. Bro has a brain, and I thought he only does what Melfina told him what to do, big time simp. The receptionist further explained that after 10 successful quests in a row, the adventurer's rank will rise. The same applies to the higher ranks, and from rank C onwards, the adventurer will have to pass an examination test before further raising his rank. He looks at it, as he acknowledges all the given instructions. Now with full enthusiasm, Kelvin asked about quests which are available for the beginners, so the receptionist took out 3 assignments or tasks and presented them in front of him. Kelvin quickly started focusing on the task, which made the receptionist panic a little as she moved back. One task was to defeat 3 blue slimes, another task was to gather herbs, and the last one was to look for a lost cat, which was kind of a special quest. Then Melfina advised Kelvin to take on the task of defeating the 3 blue slimes, which would be easy for a beginner, and told him about the opportunity that after defeating them he can make a pact with them, making them as one of his followers. She further highlighted that slimes are perfect targets for practicing summoning magic for the first time. Kelvin agreed, as he was very eager to use his greatest skill of summoning things, and obviously somewhere with less public. Kelvin then told the receptionist his decision that he would take on the task of defeating the blue slimes, and further made a request. Then the screen is shifted to a nearby weapons shop, and we see Kelvin coming out of it with a wooden stick shaped like a question mark, which he chose as his weapon. Melfina said that such choice of weapon would not do any major physical damage, and she sensed a weaker magical power within it, but still considers it would enhance his power, to which Kelvin said that he had spent most of his money in such purchase and remained positive in completing the quest in order to have a roof over his head for the night. Later we get taken to a dense forest, where Kelvin wonders why he has not encountered any monsters as of yet, only to realize that he just moved out from the main road of Parth Town. As he looked from behind a bush, he spotted a group of blue slimes meandering about. Melfina addressed Kelvin as master and instructed him to use his analyze eye, to which he did so. While using the analyzed eye, the user's both eyes transform into blue color and grants him the ability to see his opponent's current status, power level, his strengths and weaknesses. Kelvin, amazed by such power as Melfina, reminded him that this power's rank was S. That means that he can look into any creature with a power level of less than 100 than him, and also the items up to rank S. Kelvin wondered, doesn't that mean practically everything? And since Melfina's status was unknown, so he assumes that she must have been 100 levels above him. Melfina reminded him again that she's a goddess and heard his every thought. That made him feel embarrassed, but he wondered how much MP he needed to have to summon her, but came out of his thoughts in a second and prepared himself for battle. The blue slimes are blue-colored slime-like creatures just like amoeba, whose movements were based on jumps. I thought blue slimes are pink in color, but thankfully we aren't misguided due to his explanation. Melfina said that for a pact to be formed he must have to acquire the monster's consent, so he thought firstly to try to talk to it. Melfina instructed him to weaken it without killing it, then cast the pact spell to form a pact. It would surely agree. Kelvin acknowledged the guidance and thought that Melfina seems to knows a lot about games, so he agreed to hurt it with his wooden stick to weaken it, and suddenly jumps from the bush with a powerful strike, but he missed it, eventually alerting the other blue slimes. In doing so, all ran away, but one attacked Kelvin suddenly out of nowhere in the stomach. Melfina shockingly asked if he is alright, to which he replied that he underestimated it, wondering that slimes were supposed to be an easy target, the weakest of all. The slime that fought back seems to be coming for another round. Kelvin gets up to fight again, but misses every attack, and the slime hits him with 3 consecutive attacks, making him fall to the ground again. That's Co. Then Kelvin, breathing heavily, started focusing on his movements and patterns. Finally, he was successful in giving a final blow to it, then used his Analyze Eye, which shows his HP decreasing to 3/5, which is perfect enough for the pact. Melfina guided him to hold up his arm straight towards the slime, and suddenly his hand got attached midair like spiritually, and he felt like something is flowing out of his body, which was the effect of the magic exhaustion, and told him that forming a pact would cost him half of his remaining MP regardless of the final outcome. Kelvin said that she should have said that earlier. Then suddenly the slime starts shining, and then it dematerializes into particles and flows into Kelvin's body. After that, Melfina congratulates him and asks if he would like to name his first monster. Kelvin thought for a while and decided to call it Clotho, and that they are now partners. He sensed Clotho's feelings and wondered if it was a feeling of joy. Melfina explained that now their hearts are connected, they can communicate without saying a word, even his followers can communicate with each other as well. Kelvin called this connection as the Followers Network, and thought it would be useful in the upcoming battles. Kelvin then made up his mind to try using the summoning magic, and remembered that using it would cost him half of his MP, which means 10 MP would be left, but still he summoned, and a portal opened from the ground, and Clotho appeared from it. After becoming his follower, Clotho now has eyes and mouth, and he started behaving just like a pet. Kelvin, now accompanied by Clotho, goes to complete the task of killing the blue slimes, making Melfina ask sarcastically if he is going to use Clotho to murder his own kind. That would be a terrible idea. Kelvin knew that it is the feeding habit of the slimes to kill and devour other slimes, so it's not a big deal according to him. Kelvin said to Clotho that it would not be forced by him, and that it is free to kill and eat, but instructed it to spit out their body this time so that he can give proof of killing the 3 blue slimes. Clotho agreed, being a good follower. Then they prepared themselves and took positions behind a bush. Kelvin wished to use his green magic this time on one and ordered Clotho to attack the other. Kelvin thought that Clotho should be able to defeat a blue slime easily, as his strength was enhanced by Kelvin's magic. As for the green magic, Kelvin was taught a few basic spells by Melfina, but the thing is that after forming a pact with Clotho, he only has enough MP for one spell, which he confidently thought would be enough to defeat a blue slime. Then Kelvin and Clotho both jumped out of the bush for their powerful strike as a coordinated attack. Kelvin waved his wooden stick and called for Wind, a powerful blue-colored spell force, which comes out from it, and quickly hit the blue slime, cutting it in half, instantly killing it, and a display labeled its HP 0/5. Clotho meanwhile quickly jumps around the other blue slime, circling it just like how tigers used to do, roars, and hits his powerful blow from behind in the blink of an eye, and again a display labeled 0/5 HP. As both of the slimes were defeated, Kelvin, amazed by their attack as a team, exclaimed with a fist, shouting that it is nice, and wondered if Clotho's abilities were really enhanced by the effect of green magic, as he was shown to have become much faster than before the pact was being made. Melfina, again with her melodious guiding voice, told them that rank S summoning can grant followers with a 100 points bonus on all attributes, and to confirm this, Kelvin used his analyze eye to check Clotho's status level as he was devouring the defeated blue slime, and he was surprised to see the visible increase in Clotho's power, that it really did happen. That's when he realized why the summoners were highly valued in the countries. "This is so overpowered," Kelvin remarked, and then wondered about Clotho's powers despite being only at level 1. Melfina then interrupted to make a small correction that Kelvin is the only one who is currently possessing the rank S summoning magic, and that the others are at most rank B or C that only provide a small bonus of about 10 to 20 points as Clotho appeared hopping energetically in front of him. Kelvin questioned her if she is being serious, and thought that it is totally unfair having such a skill, only at level 1. Suddenly a powerful noise interrupted the moment, alerting Kelvin. To his surprise, a dead blue slime appeared before him. It was Clotho who made the attack as he appeared from behind the bush. Kelvin couldn't help but show affection towards Clotho for his loyalty as he stretches his arms and back after having such a hectic day. Hectic day after being beaten by a slime, men of our era. A sigh of relief he got after completing the task of defeating 3 blue slimes was so much that Clotho dematerialized and flowed back into his body as the beautiful time of the sunset started to take place. Melfina then praised Kelvin that he has also done well in forming his first pact, and in combat, as Kelvin took a deep breath after a day full of exhaustion. Now, Kelvin continues his journey in the town. In his hand is a small bag of coins he got in exchange for the quest he had completed. He wondered if he had collected his reward that should be enough to pay for a decent meal and a place to stay the night. Kelvin complained to Melfina that she could have given him more coins in the beginning, so that he could buy a better weapon, but Melfina suggested that such an action would take away the chance of cultivating his power in this world. Instead, she decided to give him enough coins to buy a simple weapon. Kelvin wandered through the town in search of the inn that was recommended by the female receptionist Andy from the guild. He wandered into a nearby street he thought was supposed to be the way towards the inn. His attention was drawn towards a crowd of people who were gathered around a vendor's cage. Melfina whispered to Kelvin that the figure appeared to be slaves. Kelvin thought that he still got some empty slots for followers, and it might be a good idea to get an extra companion. The vendor praised enthusiastically that he got this splendid merchandise a few days ago, and that it's an elf. One possible buyer said that elves are rarely found, and the one on display looks skinny, but he assured that she would grow up to be a beautiful maiden. The vendor further explained that she is just a half-elf, and he would not complain about selling her at such a low price. Kelvin found himself attracted towards the half-elf's beauty, temporarily lost. Men would simp for anyone, even if they are dating a goddess. Now the screen is shifted to the fairy's song. Kelvin admired the place, and Melfina said that such a place would be best for newly adventurers like them. "Hello," said by Kelvin as he entered the inn. A lady innkeeper, Claire, was cleaning the tables, and she greeted him well, to which Kelvin asked for a room immediately. The lady cheerfully replied that if he liked the stay, he could come back again without hesitation. Kelvin said he heard about the food of this place, really delicious. Claire agreed and told him that she is preparing dinner, and assured him that the meal would be decent, but insisted he had some rest in the room above. As Kelvin went into his room, he sat on the bed and wondered if there is any bathtub. Melfina responded that only the royalty and nobles can enjoy bathtubs. Most commoners would just have to wash themselves in rivers or wipe themselves with hot water. First time for everything. As he explored the room, Kelvin laid on the bed and wondered if life without a bathtub would be very difficult for a Japanese, so he dreamed of having his own house with a bathtub in it one day as his stomach started making noises due to not having eaten anything since coming to this world. Melfina said that she smells dinner and urges him to level up his power so that he could summon her as soon as possible, because it's been ages since she last tasted mortal food. As he went downstairs, he was presented with a tray full of delicious food by Clara, which included a loaf of bread, roasted chicken, soup, eggs, and coffee, everything that would make a man happy. As Kelvin grabbed the fork and knife and started eating, the episode came to an end. His life in this new world has started with Melfina, whose voice only he can hear, and Clotho as his new companion, and wondered what new friends and does await on this new journey ahead. As a new day starts, Kelvin and Clotho embark on new adventures, and Kelvin thanked his former self. The summoner class he picked for himself before being reincarnated would surely be of great use in this world as he battles new monsters alongside Clotho. Ange and Kelvin are both in the tavern. She is excited and congratulates Kelvin. She tells him that after the completion of his quest, he is finally going to be promoted to E rank. Kelvin gets shy and thanks her. Ange gets honest with him and says that when he first took an E rank quest without a party, she was really worried that something bad might happen to him. She suspects and asks him that he could not team up with another party, not because he did not want to but because he was capable of it. She asks Kelvin if she is right. Kelvin is shocked because it is true that if he would party up someone it would expose that he is a summoner in the world. Kelvin makes an excuse and tells Ange that even though he does not have a party, Clotho is still his companion and reliable partner. Ange gets curious and asks him if not drawing attention is his policy. She wants to know about what is the actual reason behind him fighting alone. Other adventurers are jealous. They are staring at Kelvin because he catches their attention after ranking up fast. They are talking to each other and think that Kelvin just registered as an F-rank officer. Jealousy is a feminine trait. As men, they should not be jealous because that would be gay. The words are spread among the adventurers and some of them think that Kelvin is a mage who is hiding his identity as an adventurer for some reason. Ange gets curious after hearing the rumors. She asks Kelvin directly if he is a mage before going to the village. She knows that he is really strong for a command newcomer. Kelvin gets dull and he makes an excuse by saying that he can't tell her the details. Ange panics and apologizes to him. She knows that it is very impolite to ask adventurers such a private question, but since when do people actually care about privacy? Ange suggests to Kelvin that he must be careful from now on because judging by his looks, she thinks that he might be looking for D-rank quests. She is worried for him because he is going on a much more difficult quest with a party. Kelvin smiles confidently because he is planning the same and he tells her that she does not have to worry because he is going to be alright. He tells her that he will flee away with the first sign of danger. Not very manly or masculine, he is also proud of his ability to escape from harm. Ange tells him that he should please get some new equipment at least so that his defense will get incredible, because he is wearing the same gear from a week ago. Kelvin notices his gears and they are not in good condition to handle on a D-rank mission. He agrees with Ange and tells her that he will change his gears soon. Kelvin asks Ange to show him some D-rank quests. Someone standing aside tells Kelvin that he should take Black Knight's subjection if he is looking for a D-rank quest. When the person comes outside, Ange recognizes him, and he is Cashel, who is also an adventurer. He went away for some work and came back recently. Cashel greets her and starts flirting with her. He is a prideful person. Ange thanks him for his help and asks him about how his quest is. Cashel confidently tells her that he completes the quest easily. He sounds like those Sigma male who end up failing their tasks miserably. He also mentions the lizard man and says that finishing them isn't a problem either. He is bragging in front of everyone. Cashel says that his quest is a mere C rank so that he can show everyone that he is the strongest. He asks Kelvin if he has just been promoted to the E rank. Cashel offers him a handshake and tells him that as a senior, he is happy for him and looking forward to working with him too. Kelvin does not know about him, and Cashel apologizes because he hadn't given his full introduction. His name is Cashel, and he is a D-rank adventurer. The people know that Cashel is lying because, as usual, he enjoys himself after destroying newcomers. They think that the overconfident new rookie is going to be his target. The adventurers are disappointed and think that only if someone would be stronger than Cashel in the guild, they might teach him a lesson. The other adventurer asks if they all should give the newcomer a warning. Cashel stares at the adventurers and they get quiet. Ange is also worried, but there is nothing she can do to save Kelvin. Cashel tells Kelvin that his party is going to take down the Black Knight and asks him if he would like to join them. Ange tries to interrupt and says that the Black Knight is a D-rank quest, but he is also very powerful and difficult for him to defeat. She says that it is also very difficult for Kelvin, who has just been promoted to E rank. Cashel laughs and tells Ange to relax. He is confident that everything is going to work out fine as long as all of them work together. Ange hesitates, but there is nothing she can do either way. Kelvin declines Cashel's offer and tells him that he can't accept his invitation. He also states the fact that partnering up with him won't benefit him in any way. Cashel smiles and tells him that he does not have to be shy. Kelvin uses his power to check Cashel's stats. He sees that Cashel is at level 34, and his title is Murder. One notable thing is also that his stats are not lower than Clotho's. Cashel's age is 25, his race is human, and he also possesses some dangerous skills. Kelvin knows that Cashel is a person who won't give him up easily. There is also a possibility that he has the intention to kill him. Kelvin smiles because he gets another suitable idea. He suggests that they should have a competition and compete about who will kill the Black Spirit Knight first. There is no doubt that Kelvin decides to go solo on that D-rank quest too. Cashel laughs and thinks that it is a joke. He tells Kelvin that it is far too powerful for a single person to take on. It is almost impossible for a rookie to defeat the Black Spirit Knight. All adventurers in the guild are attentive to their talk. Cashel tells Kelvin that he will go with his party as planned. Kelvin tells him that he does not have any problem with it. Cashel is amazed for a second. He starts smiling impressively and says that he is sure confident like the rumors said. He tells Kelvin to count him in the competition and says that he will surely defeat him. He goes away, and Kelvin knows about all the threats, so he decides to lay traps for them during or after his fight with the Black Spirit Knight. Kelvin knows that Cashel's party also sounds suspicious, and they are going to be proved as worthy opponents. He tells Carol not to push him anymore. The workers at the Adventurers Guild are worried. They ask Ange if she is sure and also advise her to inform Kelvin that Cashel is a dangerous person. It feels like Kelvin is talking to himself, and the guild members think that they are of no good because they can't save him. And Beth is also looking more scared. Later, all the Adventurers Guild members start cheering for Kelvin and tell him to be careful. They are worried and want him to win, but it becomes a dangerous situation in which Kelvin has to fight the Black Spirit Knight and possibly Cashel and his party. Cashel goes to the narrow street, and his party member is waiting for him there. He asks him what he thinks about the challenge. His party member tells him that Kelvin might be stronger and more dangerous than they thought. Even though Cashel and his party are arrogant, they are still smart enough to rid the situation. His name is Gimel, and his Analyze Eye skill is of C rank. Gimel tells Cashel that Kelvin's concealment skill is at least rank C. Cashel tells Gimel that he thinks Kelvin is just another idiot with all muscles and no brain. He gets curious if Kelvin is hiding something because even Gimel's Analyze Eye skill isn't able to see his status. Raj is standing in the corner. He is a strong muscle man, and he is also blind in one eye. He tells Cashel that he can just simply beat Kelvin like last time. He asks Cashel to allow him so that he can fight alone with Kelvin. Raj is dependent on his muscles and thinks that he can beat Kelvin easily. Cashel calms him down and tells him to be patient. He tells them that Kelvin challenged them for a competition alone. He also knows that he has to respect Kelvin for his courage as his seniors. Gimel tells Raj to stand down and behave more gently with Kelvin. Raj is dumb and he does not care about such complicated things. He decides that he will do simply as usual. Cashel makes an evil face, and he is eager to be entertained by Kelvin. Later, at the ancient castle of the evil spirit, Cashel and his party members are exploring it because the competition started between them and Kelvin. When they reach the hall of the castle, they are shocked because all the undead soldiers are already defeated. It isn't acceptable that Kelvin could do something like that alone with his current rank E. Kelvin is waiting for them and tells Cashel that he has finally arrived. He guesses the other two people as his party members, which is obvious. Cashel notices the verdant staff and concludes that Kelvin is a green mage. Gimel smiles and thinks Kelvin is a fool. Kelvin is holding a green wooden stick which is known as verdant staff, and it is used to cast green magic. Kelvin tells them that the Black Spirit Knight is behind the door and asks them if it is supposed to be a competition because he almost won it. Cashel tells him that he is surprised because he did not think that he would stop behind and wait to face them. Raj asks Kelvin if he knew that he could not defeat the Black Spirit Knight alone and waited to ask for their help. Kelvin tells Raj that he is wrong and he still intends to win the competition. He knows that he can't allow them to make things difficult for him while he is dealing with the Black Spirit Knight. That's why he decides to fight them first. Kelvin is confirmed. He smiles and asks Cashel if he came to kill him because he is ready for it, and tells them to start the fight already. Cashel, Raj, and Jimmel are surprised. Jimmel tells Cashel that Kelvin knew about their plan all along. Cashel is confused that Kelvin still came after knowing all of it, and he asks him if the guild hired him. The other possibility is that Kelvin might have come to get the bounty on Raj's head. Jimmel panics, and he is sure that Kelvin's concealment skill is of high rank. He asks Kelvin if he is a bounty hunter who is pretending to be a newcomer. Kelvin is stunned for a minute and wonders if Cashel and his party are wanted because they have a bounty on their heads. Clotho tells Kelvin that it won't change their plan. Kelvin tells them that it was a complete coincidence and reminds them that they approached him first. He calls Raj a fat ass and tells him to stop shivering and come at him. Raj gets furious and asks him who is shivering. He threatens him that he will tear apart his smart mouth. He starts running toward Kelvin out of madness. Cashel tries to stop him and tells him not to get provoked. Raj tries to punch Kelvin, and he is stopped. He falls into Kelvin's trap and gets worried because Kelvin made a mud trap for him so that he wouldn't be able to do anything. Kelvin uses his magic to create a green magic mud bind trap. The magic would turn anything into a swamp and restrain anyone from moving whoever gets caught in it. Cashel gets worried because Kelvin pushed them toward the corner since the start of the fight, and he also created a mud trap in advance. He gets irritated because they still could not guess his concealment skill. Jimmel panics because even his C-rank analyzer eye can't detect the trap. Raj is struggling and tries his best to escape from the swamp. Kelvin uses wind magic to attack them, and Cashel dodges it easily, but Raj can't because he is stuck in one position. Jimmel panics. He apologizes to his boss and tells him that he does not want to get caught, so he decides to run away. Raj calls him a bastard and tells him not to betray them. Jimmel knows that the newcomer is very dangerous, and his instinct is telling him the same thing. Clotho tells Kelvin that Cashel is going to approach him in 10 seconds. Kelvin is confident because everything is going on as planned. He tells Clotho to stop Jimmel and won't allow him to escape. Clotho blocks the whole passage, and it evolves from a blue slime into a slime Glutonia. Clotho gets the title of Devourer. Jimmel is scared to death because he has never seen a slime of that species. A few days earlier, when Clotho and Kelvin were training and hunting in the forest, suddenly Clotho started acting differently. Kelvin gets worried for him and thinks that he is hurt. At that time, Ephale tells him that Clotho is going to evolve. Clotho attains a large form, and it becomes a monster that obliterated half of Taraj, the nation of water, several hundred years ago. It is the legendary monster which is equal to a demon lord. Slime Glutonia is too rare, and it becomes the powerful companion of Kelvin. Clotho defeats Jimmel in one attack and makes him unconscious. Raj punches the swap with all his might and escapes. Kelvin analyzes Jimmel and sees that he is really weak. Raj tells Cashel that he will handle the slime so that he wouldn't have to worry about it. Clotho grabs Raj all over his body and tightens the grip. Raj starts to shout because of pain. Cashel reaches near Kelvin and draws his sword out. Kelvin calls him respectfully and tells him to show what he got. Cashel gets defeated and his whole face gets swallowed. He can't stand Kelvin for even 10 seconds. Kelvin knows that Cashel decided to become a newcomer killer because it would get them more points for defeating a monster. He thinks that Cashel and his party are just a bunch of cowards and not worthy opponents after all. Clotho checks their weapons and wanders around. All that is left is just to defeat the Black Spirit Knight and complete the quest. Kelvin decides that he will hand over Cashel and others to the guild later. He ties them up, and it is time for him to challenge the real opponent. He does not have to worry about anything because he has dealt with Cashel and his party members in the beginning. Kelvin opens the door, and Black Spirit Knight is standing in front of the throne. He uses his analyzing eye skill to check Knight's stats, and his name is Gerard, and he is level 53. His age is 138 years old, and he is a male knight. Kelvin gets excited after seeing his stats. He can't wait to make the Black Spirit Knight his companion. Black Spirit Knight tells him angrily to state his business. Kelvin tells him that he has come to kill him, or that is his objective. He tells him that he changes his mind after meeting him. Kelvin tells Gerard his name, and also says that he is a summoner. He is eager to form a pact with him. It is night, and laughing voices are coming out of the castle. Jared is enjoying his time with Kelvin. He tells him that whoever comes to the castle always tries to attack him and kill, but he is glad that Kelvin is the first person who ever tried to talk with him. Jared says that it wasn't long ago since he got his sense back as a monster. He used to be a knight captain who served that very first country. He explains that he used to be a human too. Jared also has no idea about how he ends up as a monster and why. Kelvin is also curious for him and asks him if he has any idea. Jared tells him that he isn't sure, but he guesses that it might be because he still has lingering desires in the world. Kelvin gets dull. He can't get the right personality of Gerard. It seems like he is a good-natured, talkative uncle. Kelvin knows that he does not have the slightest idea about what Gerard desires, but he has been protecting the castle ever since he became a monster. Gerard even gives him candy. Kelvin can't believe that the Black Spirit Knight is like that. He eats the candy and thinks that Gerard might be just excited because he met someone to chat with after a long time of solitude. He can resemble his feelings, and suddenly he spits out the candy and tells Gerard that it tastes weird. Gerard tells him that the candy has been with him for a very long time, and that only God knows about it. He does not think that Kelvin might eat it. He laughs and tells him that he is shocked by his recklessness. Kelvin gets furious and throws the candy at Gerard. He tells him that he might be looking for a fight. Ephale reminds him about the pact. Kelvin gets relaxed and tells her that he has almost forgotten. He directly asks Gerard if he will form a pact with him or not. Gerard gets curious and starts wondering about the pact. He knows that the king and the kingdom he was sworn with are gone, and he is alone in the world. He tells Kelvin that he isn't against serving a new king. Kelvin knows about what Gerard is thinking and asks him if he wants to see whether he is worthy of being his master or not. He understands and gets ready for the fight. Kelvin tells him that he won't have to hold back, otherwise it would be pointless. Gerard stands up and tells him that he is talking big despite being the weaker one. It is funny. He knows that he is an interesting lad. Later both of them get ready to fight against each other. Kelvin calls Gerard an old man and tells him to be prepared. Gerard tells him that he isn't an old man and asks him to call him by his name. Kelvin tells him that he also has a name and he isn't some lad. He starts running toward Black Spirit Knight and attacks him with shot wind. Clotho goes behind Gerard and attacks him through his blind spot. Gerard dodges all of Clotho's attacks even though he can't see him. Kelvin attacks through the front to divert his attention. Ephale tells Kelvin that Gerard possesses the Mind's Eye skill. She tells him that he can use it as a bonus skill for his situation awareness and reflexes. Gerard gets serious and tells Kelvin to show all that he has because otherwise, it would be pointless. Kelvin uses the Earth magic and launches Earth Rampart. Clotho uses the self-destruction skill, and Gerard is impressed because he knows a lot of things. The floor gets destroyed, and Gerard prepares his attack. Ephale tells Kelvin to change his position because it is sure dangerous. Kelvin barely dodges Gerard's attack and knows that he can't even see it coming. He uses magic and attacks again. Gerard counters his attack and impresses Kelvin because he can even launch a deadly attack while off balance. Gerard starts fighting Clotho and Kelvin at once. Kelvin can't help but get impressed by Gerard more because he is also a skillful swordsman. He finds his weakness and launches an air pressure attack. The gravity starts pushing Gerard toward the ground, but he can stand tall. Kelvin uses another spell which can launch powerful air pressure to render enemies immobile. He tells Gerard that it is time for him to give up. Gerard knows that he must not fail and give everything he got. During the fight, Gerard remembers his past and the country named Alcohol with thriving agriculture and lush vegetation. It is a small yet peaceful kingdom. One day an elven emissary named Jaldora comes from the western continent. The emissary tells the king to join Rizian forces and help them defeat the Holy Empire of Daramis. Gerard at that time asks the emissary if he thinks them a fool. The king of Alcohol stops Gerard and rejects the elf naturally. The elf tells the wise king to mark his words and says that there will be consequences to disobey the Rizian Empire. A few months later, the country falls into a crisis and slowly all the residents start dying. Gerard's daughter gives up on her life. Alcohol's country collapses, and even the king dies on his throne. Only Gerard is left alive, but soon he reaches his limit, but he does not know what he should do with his life. He buries his daughter with his hand in the country. Gerard remembers all things finally. The rage starts running through his veins, and he knows that he desires to avenge his country, the Alcohol Kingdom. He breaks through the air pressure attack of Kelvin and stands tall. Kelvin can't believe that Gerard is so powerful. Gerard starts running toward Kelvin and asks him if he got what it requires to fulfill his desire. Kelvin uses the air pressure again and tells Clotho to attack him. Gerard gets defeated, and on the next day, Kelvin submits a piece of Black Spirit Knight's armor. Ange is glad and tells him that the quest is complete. Everyone starts cheering and tells Kelvin that he is incredible. Cashel and his party go to the prison, and the adventurers don't have to be afraid of anything. Everyone in the Adventure Guild starts celebrating Kelvin's victory. The guild decides, and Ange tells Kelvin that the quest is much more difficult than regular D rank. She tells him that they decide to give him a special promotion, and he will also be able to get rewards from the guild master himself. She is glad that he returns safe and victorious. She tells him that he keeps surprising her. Kelvin does not tell any soul that Gerard becomes his companion, and he is with him like Clotho. Gerard starts flirting with the reception lady, and she gets nervous, telling him that she is engaged with the master. He keeps calling Kelvin a king and makes him get irritated. Kelvin knows that he tells Gerard to stop calling him a lad, but he is not fine with being a king. Gerard simply tells him that a knight would only serve a king. Kelvin clears the situation and tells everyone that he is also not engaged to Melfina. When Kelvin goes upstairs to the guild, he sees an old man staring out the window. The old man smiles and tells Kelvin that it is a lovely day. Kelvin and his team stand face to face with Black Coast Knight in a dark room at night. After a huge fight, they manage to defeat Gerard, a member of Black Coast Knight. Soon, there is a fight between Gerard and Kelvin. Kelvin comes up with a plan to fight Gerard and defeats him. Kelvin mentions that as a summoner, he has the power to contact someone and make them his servant. There is a rule that in battle, both team members that defeat each other become the servants of the other team, as long as they agree. So Kelvin makes Gerard his servant. Gerard kneels and tells Kelvin that he is his new king. At that time, Kelvin's facial expressions did not show any specific emotion. After Gerard disappears, Kelvin expresses his sorrow for the loss of Gerard's family and country. Kelvin goes to his guide, Leo, to tell him about his victory. Leo is a gentleman with a royal and charming personality. Kelvin feels proud as he shares his success with Leo. While looking out of the window, Leo comments on the beautiful day and suggests that it is the perfect day for adventure. Kelvin agrees happily. Kelvin is glad that he is on his way to defeating the Black Ghost Knight. Leo chuckles and recommends that Kelvin take some rest. Resting is for the weak, strong men don't sleep. Kelvin and Leo are on an adventure. Kelvin says it is a great day for an adventure, but Leo doubts him. Leo is Kelvin's guild master, and he asks him a few silly questions. Leo can see that Kelvin is not being truthful, so he uses his right straight eye to scan Kelvin's body. This makes Kelvin scared and curious as to how his guide master knows he is a different person who came from another world. Leo knows that Kelvin is not being honest and that he is perhaps lying that came from another world. Leo, Kelvin's guild master, and Kelvin are sitting in a room facing each other, with 2 cups of tea in front of them. Leo asks Kelvin some questions because Kelvin has lost trust in his guide master. Leo mentions that Ange has told him what happened with Cashel. Leo asks Kelvin if he defeated the Black Ghost Knight alone or with the help of his servants. Leo becomes suspicious and keeps asking Kelvin if he is a summoner or not. He tells Kelvin that he is from another world and that he has cheated them. Kelvin is taken aback by the situation. He has been very careful not to let anyone know about his identity as a summoner or that he comes from another world, so he is surprised that Leo seems to know everything. Kelvin is confused and wondering how Leo found out about his secret. Just like when my girlfriend found out I was cheating, I did not know that my own homie would snitch on me to get laid. Suddenly, someone whispers in Kelvin's ear. It is Gerard who tells Kelvin that he can't keep his true identity hidden forever. Someone is bound to find out that he belongs to another world. Gerard advises Kelvin to befriend people as much as possible so that he can trust them and ask for their help when needed. Kelvin's friends advise him that he should be upfront about his background and not try to hide it from anyone. Initially, Kelvin is defensive, but later he agrees with his friends. He realizes that Leo was right when he said that Kelvin could not escape his past. Kelvin then explains to Leo that he was not aware of Cashel's criminal background. Leo reminds Kelvin that he should have stopped Cashel's illegal activities. Kelvin apologizes and says that he did not know Cashel was a criminal, as he was a highly respected person in the militant nation of Tricen. Leo is saying that because Cashel is a noble person, a very strong person, it is very difficult for Leo to find proof against him. It is very difficult for them to prove him a criminal because Leo requires strong proof against him, which he does not have. Kelvin says that Cashel is a nobleman. Kelvin finds it very strange to hear how Leo is calling this criminal the right person because he has no evidence against him, so he is a noble, he is a good person even though he is a criminal. Kelvin laughs a lot hearing all this, and it is also very strange how he is defending the wrong person because he has no evidence against him, so he is right. Leo tries to explain to him that before Leo had no evidence against him, but now he has done a lot of work on this thing and he has very good evidence against him. He has worked a lot on this thing, and Leo has accumulated very strong evidence against him. Now he will beat him, so Kelvin does not have to worry about this thing. But now Leo has a lot of evidence against him. For this, Leo will punish him severely. Kelvin laughs again when he hears this and says that he will catch him before he does. Leo admits that he feels ashamed for not working on a certain issue, and he believes that he should be held responsible for his actions and would face punishment. The situation is not in Cashel's favor, and he will have to answer for his actions. Kelvin expresses his happiness about this development but quickly realizes that something is wrong. Leo then reveals to Kelvin that he has encountered otherworldly beings before, just like Kelvin, and that he wants to be Kelvin's good friend. He cleverly assures Kelvin that he has no intentions of becoming his enemy in the future. Kelvin is immediately surprised to hear this and begins to think that people like him. Then Leo tells him about the heroes of the Holy Empire Theramis. Kelvin is very surprised to hear that. Then suddenly the voice of a girl is heard again in his ear. It is the voice of a girl among them that made him his servant in battle. This girl's name is Melifina. She tells him that she knows this person, so Kelvin is surprised. Kelvin says that Melifina did not tell him, but Melifina says that she forgot it. She says to Kelvin not to worry about it. Leo informs him about the otherworldly people who are considered priceless to Theramis. They have heard the prophecy of God and were summoned as the real heroes. Leo continues his speech, and then he walks over to the window. He asks Kelvin if he could not hear what she was talking about the Demon King. Kelvin sees him and repeats the name of the Demon King. Leo warns Kelvin about the dangerous and violent monsters that could harm anyone. Leo confesses that he is afraid to fight them as he is not as strong as the heroes. He reveals that only powerful summoners can fight them. Kelvin is interested in helping and asks Leo if he wants them to save him from the monsters instead of the heroes. Leo makes a clever proposal to Kelvin. He promises Kelvin a good job and financial support if Kelvin would protect him from a monster. Leo explains that there is a shortage of good jobs, and he would like Kelvin to work for him in exchange for the promised job. Although Leo does not have a soft spot for Kelvin, he provides him with moral support to persuade him to protect him from the monster. Leo convinces Kelvin that he will provide him with strong moral support if he assists him with his work. Leo is extremely helpful to Kelvin, but this makes Kelvin suspicious of his intentions. When Kelvin asks Leo why he is being so kind, giving him a good job, and doing him so many favors, Leo replies that he is doing so because he wants Kelvin to complete his work for him. Leo also claims that he needs Kelvin's help to protect himself from the monsters. Kelvin is being threatened by Leo to reveal his secret of being a summoner to everyone. Leo demands Kelvin's help and says that if he fails to assist, he will divulge Kelvin's secret. Kelvin's power will be taken away if Leo follows through with his threat. Leo acknowledges Kelvin's strength and rank as an adventurer and insists that Kelvin use his abilities to help him. Leo gives Kelvin an ultimatum: help him or face the consequences of losing his power. When Kelvin listens to all the words of Leo, he understands that if he only wants to keep his power, he has to help him, because he does not want to lose his power at any cost. He often gets angry thinking about what happened to him from the other world. He does not want his power taken away because if his power is taken away, he is of no use. As a summoner from another world, Kelvin decides to help Leo with great compulsion and agrees because he is ready to do whatever it takes to keep his power. When Leo hears Kelvin's decision, he is very happy and says that it is nice of Kelvin to help him. Then they both extend the hand of friendship to each other. Kelvin and his friend are standing on the street when she tells him that she is glad he is working as a rank B adventurer and Leo gave him a promotion. She is very happy, but Kelvin is hesitant and expresses that he does not want to do anything special. His friend reassures him that Leo is known to be strange and never promotes anyone so quickly, but he gave Kelvin a promotion anyway. They then go inside their house, and his friend informs him that she has cooked an extra dish for dinner to celebrate his promotion. Kelvin is happy to hear this as she is known for cooking excellent food. As he is starving, Kelvin's stomach starts to rumble, and he asks her to make some lunch for him right away instead of worrying about dinner later. After Kelvin's friend starts making him something to eat, he sits off to the side and watches her prepare his lunch. It takes her about 5 to 6 minutes to finish making the meal, and then she hands the tray to Kelvin. Kelvin, who is very hungry, quickly runs up the stairs to his room to eat lunch. However, as he is going up the stairs, he hears some sounds that sound like people talking to each other. He stops on the stairs and starts listening to the conversation, but as soon as he hears the noises, he realizes that it is his sleeves that he has imprisoned, and Jared tells him to tell him who this girl is. He asks him if he is still a slave in the house and if they are using him for any benefit. Then he says to Gerard that she is Kelvin's very good friend, and he has been living with her for a long time. That's when Melifina feels jealous of her and tells her that she is his friend. She asks him what he thinks about her. There is no telling about what Kelvin thinks about Melifina. Kelvin tells her to shut up because she is his very good friend, and they both misunderstand the situation. Kelvin enters the room, takes off his black coat from above, and sits on the bed. He has placed his lunch on the table in front of him and picks up the sandwich, starting to eat it. Kelvin tells Melfina that she mentions the heroes of the Holy Empire, which she has reincarnated. Melfina responds that it was a long time ago when a group of young girls and boys were chatting at a resort. She adds that it is a very old incident. Leo warns him about the strange Holy Empire heroes during a sudden flashback. Kelvin expresses that there is a big problem, which Melfina does not seem to think is a big deal. She assures him not to worry too much about it. Melfina requests Kelvin not to get involved in this matter and to forget about it since it is a very old issue. Kelvin agrees and does not discuss it further. After finishing the last bite of his sandwich and his tea, Kelvin lies down on the bed, closes his eyes, and thinks about the heroes and the Demon King. He feels a bit confused. The protagonist suddenly recalls his previous battle with Gerard, where he made him a servant. As a result, he immediately opens his eyes and summons Clotho, a mysterious entity. To his surprise, from the floor of Kelvin's room, he notices the appearance of blue rounded balls, which seem to be Kelvin's pets. Clotho keeps some of his money, and Kelvin orders him to give his money now, so he gives it to him, and then Kelvin grabs his money. Then Kelvin sits down on the ground and loves him. Kelvin likes this thing of Clotho so much that he hides things inside himself. When he grabs the money, he wonders if this money will be enough. Kelvin has just grabbed his money when he hears a whisper in his ear. It is Gerard who suggests to Kelvin that they go shopping. Kelvin admires Gerard's suggestion and agrees to it. After 5 minutes, Kelvin goes downstairs and asks Claire if she wants new dinner plates. She is pleased with the idea, so Kelvin buys the plates and Claire cooks dinner that night. After saying goodbye, he walks to go to the shop. Both of his friends are suspicious about what is happening. They don't know where he is going to buy something, so Gerard asks him to tell them about what he is going to buy. He looks very happy, and he thinks that Kelvin is going to buy something amazing. Kelvin tells them that he is going to have a slave, a female slave. Then he will go get a new slave and add her to his team to help him fight everyone. On this, Melfina first says that she is also Kelvin's slave and asks him why he needs another female slave. Melfina is afraid that Kelvin will leave her and befriend a new female slave and form a partnership to fight with everyone. Like the voice, there is no such thing. He is making new teammates so that their team will be more locked in, and they can fight better than the enemy because they are more in number. Kelvin has a girl in his sight who has been kept captive for a long time. He saw her and he was going to buy her and add her to his team. The girl had a problem that whenever someone touched her, she would throw her fire at everyone to protect herself. So as he goes to the girl to buy her, he sees that the girl has set someone on fire and her owner is putting out the fire. When the fire went out on that man, then its owner started scolding her that he brought this girl to prison so that he could make a profit from this girl. It is not taken that whenever someone comes to buy her, she throws fire on them. Kelvin is so upset to see how this girl is throwing fireballs every time someone touches her. He asks Melfino what the solution is, and she tells him that if he does himself over the girl's power, she might be lost because that girl's power is less than Kelvin's power. A girl sits in a prison, lamenting her fate. She wonders why nobody buys her and why she throws fire at anyone who tries. She longs for freedom from her captivity. After some time, Kelvin approaches her owner, pays for her release, and sets her free. The girl, who has long golden hair and clear eyes, is beautiful, but her clothes are dirty from her time in captivity. Kelvin and the girl leave together, free from the prison. That girl was not wearing a shoe, so when she was walking, something caught her foot, and she learned to refer to it as pain. The girl wanted to thank Kelvin because Kelvin had gotten her out of that prison and freed her. Her name was Ephale, and she was telling her name to Kelvin. Then they both introduced themselves to each other. Ephale was very thankful to be called that he got her out of this prison, and now she can live a free life, so she was saying to him that he is her master and she was his slave. Kelvin takes the girl to his house, and Claire becomes upset upon seeing her. She asks Kelvin if the girl is his guest. Kelvin, feeling hungry, tells Claire that they can discuss everything later. He asked her to arrange some clothes for the girl as her current situation is very poor. The girl is hiding behind Kelvin's back. Claire asks her to come in front of him. He tells her that she does not need to worry. Ephale is afraid that if she touches Claire, she will throw fire at her. But Ephale remembers that her power will be destroyed if Kelvin frees her. He says that she does not need to worry that her powers would be destroyed because her powers were low, his powers were high, so he has restored them. Ephale realizes, and again she is happy that now she will not be able to harm anyone, and no one will be hurt because of her now. She is a normal person, and she is done with it. Ephale was very grateful to Kelvin for the thing, and now she was Kelvin's slave and Kelvin was her master. She would do what he said. Kelvin was very grateful to Claire for allowing this girl to stay in her house. Claire takes Ephale into a room to clean her up and dress her, as she is very dirty. Meanwhile, Kelvin sits down at the dining table, eagerly waiting for them. When Kelvin arrives home with Ephale, Claire informs him that their food is ready, emphasizing they have come at the right time. Hungry, Kelvin eagerly sits down and waits for Claire and Ephale to return. After some time, they join him, and together, they start eating. Kelvin had been waiting for a long time, hungry and unable to wait. More than an hour has passed since they went inside the restaurant, and Kelvin wonders why Claire is taking so long with the food getting cold. Despite his hunger, he patiently waits for their return. Then finally, after waiting for a long time, they both go back, and Claire stands from a distance, telling him to look as he has prepared the info. While seeing Ephale, he keeps looking at her because she looks more beautiful. She wears a purple-colored dress, looking very cute and dressed well. Now, she looks like a pretty girl, her blonde golden long hair shining. His hair shines and his eyes also shine. Now, his whole body is clean, and she wears nice clean clothes. Ephale appears delighted, being complimented by Kelvin for Claire's excellent work, making Claire happy too. They both sit at the dining table and start their meal. He tells Ephale that Claire cooks a very delicious meal, and he will have a lot of fun if he eats it. They both finish their meal in silence. As they finish, Claire begins to rub off their dish. Kelvin starts to go to his room and shares his story with Ephale about what he is now. Kelvin then invites Ephale to sit on the chair, while he takes a seat on the bed. Kelvin grapples with the challenge of revealing the truth that he is a summoner. He starts his speech by asserting that it does not matter what she thinks about him. Now she is his slave, and he is her master, so she will do whatever he says. Kelvin, Gerard, and Melfina are all present at the location. They inform Ephale that they are now Kelvin's slaves. Kelvin explains to her that the three of them are already his slaves, and he needs their assistance as he is a summoner requiring help in fighting enemies. Kelvin tells them that all are his slaves, and he is their master. He decides they will fight against the enemies together because they are more powerful. Ephale understands and tells him he is her master. She will agree with whatever Kelvin orders her to do. Kelvin explains she has become a partner of their team, and he assures them she will do the same. Kelvin and Ephale, feeling tired, conclude their conversation. Gerard and Melfina disappear, and Kelvin and Ephale go to change their clothes. Kelvin's room had only one bed, putting Ephale and Kelvin in a dilemma about who would sleep on it. Claire had allowed Ephale to stay over, but there was no extra bed for her. Kelvin, accustomed to sleeping alone, felt uncomfortable sharing the bed, leaving both of them worried about where to sleep. As Kelvin pondered how to solve the issue, he noticed Ephale fast asleep on his bed. Despite her fatigue, Ephale had no blanket to cover herself. Kelvin, baffled, decided to lie down beside her but soon realized something was wrong. Uncomfortable and feeling uneasy, they both could not sleep together. At noon, Kelvin and his team are fighting bravely against the enemy in the Sangra forest. The forest is vast, filled with green trees. Kelvin is pleased that Ephale has joined his team a month ago, and his team is now growing stronger. Melfina and Gerard are the first members of his team, and Ephale's addition has made their team more formidable. With a full-fledged team now, Kelvin is confident that they can fight the monsters from the other side with even greater bravery. The time men were actually men and not some scaredy cats sitting behind podcasts. They exceed their limits and target their enemies using new methods. Kelvin searches for the best and finds it in his team. They work hard together, using their powers and skills to fight against their enemies. Kelvin greatly improves his abilities, and Ephale, who is part of his team, also fights exceptionally well and follows Kelvin's orders. Kelvin is impressed with how Ephale uses her powers and skills to defeat archery and foresight, and he admires her personality. Ephale is wearing a third-grade maid uniform, but due to her exceptional skills and power, she has to upgrade her uniform multiple times within just a month. Her work is of high quality, and she deserves the upgrades. That is what every teacher says after getting benefits out of their students. Kelvin is skilled, but he wants to improve his abilities to become a better fighter. In the forest, there is a massive monster with long legs. Must be some supermodel, nothing to be scared of. Ephale and his teammates are all standing around the monster, trying to defeat it. Ephale aims his arrow, which is made of steel and has fire on it, at the monster. As he releases the arrow, it catches fire and hits the monster. The monster quickly falls to the ground and dies, resulting in Ephale's victory. Kelvin and others are inspired by Ephale's skill. She is the only one who possesses it, and she excels at it. Everyone praises her bravery in the fight. In a large hall, a group of people stand together. Among them, a girl named Ange addresses the congregation, congratulating them on their victory over their enemies and monsters. She praises everyone for their hard work and announces that they will soon have a promotion exam, which will elevate them to new levels and ranks, depending on their performance. In their fight, there is a rule that whoever does their job well will be promoted to rank A, and Kelvin is the best among them, having already achieved that rank. Kelvin is victorious when he defeats his enemies once again. His power, which has increased significantly, continues to grow along with his level. Ephale congratulates Kelvin on his incredible progress, praising him for a job well done. Kelvin is equally impressed with Elif, recognizing her hard work and dedication to the team. When Elif congratulates Kelvin for achieving rank A, he also gets happy and starts congratulating her for achieving rank C. Kelvin tells her that her quick promotion is well-deserved due to her hard work, stating that it is not easy to get promoted so quickly. He appreciates her hard work and admires her achievement of reaching such a high rank in just 1 month. During the exam, Ephale is unable to pass through rank B because she hits an arrow on the examiner's head. He falls and she fails the test. I thought that was supposed to clear her exam. Luckily, the examiner is left alive. Ephale fails, and she could achieve rank B, but Kelvin remains hopeful and encourages her to keep trying. Ephale feels embarrassed and worried, but Ange and Kelvin reassure her that she will achieve the rank soon. Ange mentions that Kelvin and she are famous for their powers and skills, and that they are both the best. Ephale is in a bad mood, so Ange tries to cheer her up by suggesting they try a new sweet dessert that's available in town. Ange takes control and invites Ephale to join her. Ephale agrees, and Kelvin is impressed by how Ange handled the situation with ease. Ange cleverly convinces Ephale to come along, and Kelvin is also invited to join them. Kelvin has not committed to whether they will go or not, so these days, Ange tells Kelvin that he can't stop the girls from going. She suggests that he should come along with them. Kelvin agrees with them and tells them that they should go. Later they plan to meet again tomorrow. Ephale is delighted that Kelvin has agreed to try her invention. Ange feels sad because she has to do her duty again, and she is tired. Kelvin and Ephale leave the place, while Ange continues with her duties. Kelvin goes to the park where he notices two men kissing. He assumes that they are dating each other. This makes him wonder if his plans to have dessert with Ephale the following day would also be considered a date. Although Kelvin knows that he and Ephale are just friends, he can't help but worry that Melfina might misunderstand their meeting. Despite there being nothing romantic between Kelvin and Ephale, he still feels uneasy about the situation. Kelvin is lost in thought when suddenly a girl named Angie approaches him. Kelvin compliments her outfit, and they exchange pleasantries. Angie then asks about a specific location, to which Kelvin provides directions. Angie expresses her interest in joining Kelvin and his companions, which puts Kelvin at ease. He thinks that having Angie with them would be great, making their trip even better. Ephale runs up to Kelvin and Angie and asks them to wait for her. When she arrives, both Kelvin and Angie are amazed by her beautiful blue dress and her overall stunning appearance. Kelvin can't take his eyes off her and just stares in awe. Ephale asks them how she looks, and Kelvin finally regains his senses and tells her she looks cute. This makes Ephale blush with happiness. Angie also compliments her appearance and tells her she looks very cute as well. Angie is teasing her friend, saying that when she arrived a month ago she was just a little girl. However, now she has grown into a bold and beautiful lady. Kelvin is watching the exchange and laughing, unsure of how to react. A group of people goes to a restaurant and sits at a table to choose their desserts and start eating. Angie compliments Kelvin's dessert choice, and then Ephale takes her to Kelvin to taste it. Everyone is watching, which makes Kelvin worried that they might think she is feeding him for some other reason. However, she just wants him to try it. Suddenly, everyone starts talking and accusing Kelvin of dating two girls at the same time and cheating. Kelvin is angry and tries to defend himself, but he eventually becomes upset and admits that it isn't true. Angie then suggests that Kelvin should try her dessert too, which makes everyone start talking again about a possible love triangle. Kelvin feels embarrassed and angry, so he asks the girls if they can go inside to eat. At that time, the third prince of Trison arrives and begins to talk about how the world has turned out, mentioning the shame and cheating that occurs towards girls. Kelvin, becoming angry, throws a pinch and overturns the table. He asks the prince what the problem is, but the other soldiers criticize Kelvin for his lack of manners. The prince then insults Kelvin by saying that he does not know how to talk at all since he is a common person. He suggests that Kelvin should be punished for speaking to him in that manner. The prince then looks at the two girls present, commenting on how cute they are, and demands that one of them be given to him in exchange for forgiveness. This request makes Kelvin even angrier, and he begins to fight the prince and his soldiers. He tells Kelvin that if he gives him the girls, he will forgive him because he has a soft heart. Kelvin becomes very angry and begins fighting. He knocks down both of the king's soldiers with one blow, causing them to fall to the ground as if they were lifeless. Kelvin boasts to the king that since the soldiers were only ranked D, his power is greater than their man's. He challenges the king to retaliate, but the prince intervenes and warns Kelvin not to lay a hand on him. At one point, Kelvin knocks down the prince with his power. Kelvin then asks the prince about his purpose for being there. The prince responds by saying that it is none of his business. Kelvin puts more pressure on him and demands an answer. Finally, the prince reveals that he came to meet Rio, the adventurer, so that he could gain power. Kelvin reveals that he is the real summoner and that he cannot help the prince gain power. The prince asks for help in his dreams, but Kelvin refuses. After Kelvin left, everyone congratulates him on a job well done, even though he does not understand what happened. Then Kelvin apologizes to the two girls he was with, saying that he ruined their dessert. Then he says that they will buy some more dessert. The guys all agree with him, but the girls are happy and say it is fine. Kelvin and Angie laugh and leave the place. Angie mentions that she would feed him, but Kelvin feels shy and declines. Finally, Kelvin and Ephale leave the venue. In the Holy Empire of Deramis, there lives a girl named Colette who is speaking to the Lady of Oracle. She asks for the lady's glorious presence to be shown again. Suddenly, the Lady of Oracle appears and asks Colette about the heroes. Colette shows her a medium-sized white ball and asks her if she can know what the heroes are doing. Colette then requests the lady to bless them with a prophecy. The lady says that she can see the evil in the Western country and instructs Colette to send the heroes there, but warns them not to go through the path. Colette agrees to the lady's wishes. Her heroes appear and ask what happened. She says the lady granted them a new prophecy. Kelvin and Ifale are lying on the bed with their backs to each other. Ifale asks Kelvin if he is awake, and he replies that he is. She thanks him for putting up with sharing a small room with her, but he says she does not need to thank him. Kelvin then apologizes for not being able to provide her with a bigger room, which makes Ifale sit up and ask him if she is as attractive as another woman. However, Kelvin does not understand what Ifale is saying and becomes confused and embarrassed. She tells Kelvin that she loves him, but he quickly shuts it down. Kelvin tells her that she can't love him, but she insists that she loves him very much. Ifale thanks Kelvin for saving her. She used to have a condition where her skin would become inflamed when she touched someone, but now she is free from that and she credits Kelvin for it. She expresses her gratitude towards Kelvin and repeats that she loves him. She starts crying while she is telling her all this. Then Kelvin holds her and tells her that it does not work. Kelvin says to her that she is as beautiful as other girls. Kelvin says to Ifale that she is really cute. He thought that she was so beautiful like other modern girls. She again flies and calls him her master. She puts her head on Kelvin's chest and lays down. Kelvin feels shy, and he is also very confused and embarrassed. It seems that Ifale is in real love with him. Ifale's feelings towards Kelvin are rare and very pure. Kelvin does not understand what to do. He thinks he has got an extra big room because this room is not enough for these two. As all these, Kelvin lost his control. Ifale fell in love with Kelvin and was impressed by his charm. Kelvin wakes up in the morning and freshens up. After having his breakfast, he sits on the bed and calls his assistants, Gerard and Melfina, to join him. However, Melfina does not return, and Gerard is accompanied by his little one, Clotho. They all watch biographies of heroes, including Selsunashiga Tokanzakizaki and Miyabi Kuromiya. While they are enjoying their tea, Ifale walks in and realizes that she forgot to refill the cups. She refills them and asks about Melfina's whereabouts, but she is still missing. Suddenly, Melfina comes back, and Ifale welcomes her. Clotho jumps onto Ifale's shoulder in excitement. Gerard is checking the biographies of some people, but he can't seem to find anything good about them. He hopes that there are many heroes out there, and that he is not the only one with a strong power within him. However, it seems that the levels of power among the heroes are relatively low. Ifale also agrees that the heroes don't have much power, skills, or good abilities. Kelvin is surprised by this, as he thought that at least their spiritual rank would be 100, but their levels are very low. They were all disappointed with the heroes, even though they had some powers themselves. Kelvin suggested he should practice his skills, but Gerard dismissed him, saying it was all garbage. Ifale demonstrated her impressive skills. Meanwhile, Salira locked the door and told Kelvin that the guide was calling him. Kelvin was confused and wondered why the guide had summoned him. Kelvin sat on the couch, while his guide master, Leo, stood beside him looking out the window. Leo informed Kelvin that there was a demon hiding in the hermit's cave with a rank of D. He mentioned a group of adventurers who were exploring the dungeon and searching for the demon. They believed that the demon was in a room they had discovered. Melfina whispered to Kelvin that the demons, angels, and dungeons were all incredibly powerful in this world. Kelvin was worried about how they would manage to stay alive. The guide master said to Kelvin that he was thinking that demons were sealed. He said, but they still did not recklessly attach. Leo was worried, and he honestly said that he did not know why he assigned this job to Kelvin. The demons were very strong. They were very powerful and brave. They were fighting with their enemies with great devotion. Leo did not think that Kelvin beat them, because their rank was S. Leo told Kelvin that he heard a rumor about him crossing paths with Princess Tabara from the Trison the other day. Kelvin was stunned, he started sweating and was left speechless. He confusingly told the guild master that he was not sure about it. Leo got curious and told Kelvin that he was having a little trouble at that time. He said that he had to find the scoundrel who beat a foreign prince up. Leo said that cleaning the mess after that person was killing him. He told Kelvin that he nearly triggered a diplomatic row with Trison. Kelvin got silent. He was embarrassed to beat the prince, and the news reached the guild master. Leo apologized to Kelvin because he got off topic, but he was saying all those things intentionally. He asked Kelvin if he would accept the request. Kelvin stood up and told him that he would do it. He knew that the guild master was the real devil. Later, Kelvin accepted the D-rank quest and went to the hermit's cave. Ephael, Clotho, and Gerard were along with him. Kelvin saw Old Sun and greeted him. Old saw Ephael and asked her about how she was doing. He was curious about her because he hadn't seen her since the promotion exam. Ephael met him and told him that she was also pleased to see him again. Old saw Gerard and asked about who he was. Gerard introduced himself and said that he was a friend of Kelvin. He told him that he came to help Kelvin in any way he could. Old was relieved after seeing a strong armored knight among them. Kelvin asked Old about the situation. Old briefly told him that they surrounded the hut with a barrier, and they were guarding it. He did not have any idea about how much Crux Bind was effective against the demon. Malvina told Kelvin that it was not more effective on a placebo, unless the demon was rank B. Old admitted that they were not strong enough for anything, and he was also ashamed of it. Kelvin, Gerard, and Ephael went inside the hut, and there was a way down to the basement. Gerard opened it and they went inside to complete the quest. The stairs were going down, but it was dark, so Ephael used magic to brighten the way. Kelvin decided that Gerard would lead the way. He told him that Ephael and he was going to be behind him. He also told Clotho to cover their rear. They all knew about what they had to do and went down. A black monster was waiting for him over a mountain of skulls. They went deep down into the cave but could not see any monster. Kelvin was aware of the danger and he knew that something unusual might be happening in the cave. Even he was unable to detect a monster or any living ordinary creature. After walking for some time, they reached the door gate where the quest was going to start. Kelvin stopped and Gerard asked him if something was wrong. Kevin told him that there could be two presents behind the door. One was the demon they were looking for, and he was weakened by the seal. Kelvin told them that the real problem was the other soul. Ephael asked Kevin about how he was planning to fight the demon. Kelvin knew that it was not a problem because they could easily fight the demon later as it was already sealed. He told them that they had to deal with the other creature first. Kelvin was motivated and he said that he could get another follower if everything went well. Kelvin and the others went inside and saw a demon girl sealed in front of them. The whole room was filled with skulls. The other creature, which made Kelvin unsettled, was sitting on the skulls, and it could speak their language too. The creature introduces himself as Arctem Victor and also greets them. Victor told them that it was a pleasure to make them acquainted. Kelvin was shocked to see an Arcteman, and he knew that if lesser demons were at least rank B, then it must have greater strength. Victor asked them about what was wrong and got curious if they thought that something was funny. Kelvin told him that nothing was wrong, and Gerard knew that his bad habits were coming out again. Victor closed the door and started laughing. The woman was the daughter of the demon lord. He covered the whole room with a barrier so that Kelvin and his party wouldn't escape. Malvina told Kelvin that there were 3 demon lords in the past. She guessed that the woman might be the daughter of the most recent demon lord, Gustav. Kelvin asked Victor if demon lord Gustav did not have a daughter. Victor told him that it was what the demon lord wanted the world to believe. He told them that the demon lord kept the information of his daughter safe so that he could protect her from his numerous enemies. Victor said that he did not expect such a powerful human to appear so soon. He knew that letting those people go outside alive who came into the cave was the right choice. Victor killed all the monsters inside the dungeon so that they could reach him easily. Kelvin knew that they were lured into the trap. Victor told them that only humans could break the seal. Kelvin understood that the Archdemon wanted him to break the demon lord's daughter's seal for him. Victor denied him and told him that he merely wanted to eat them so that he could absorb their power and get stronger. He went ahead to attack them and Gerard protected them with his shield, but he could feel his immense strength. Victor told them that his unique skill is intemperate feeding allowed him to absorb the traits of others by eating them. He said that the more his relationships were effective, the more he could absorb powers. Kelvin understood the situation and asked them if that was the reason he kept spilling information to them, so that they could know him better. Victor's plan was clear. He wanted to eat them, get human traits, break the seal himself, and free the demon lord's daughter so that she could break Hovak as the new demon lord. Kelvin attacked Victor with air pressure, and Victor told him that he was half right. Victor was the caretaker of the Demon Lord's daughter, and he raised her as his daughter. He planned to devour her and gain an incredible amount of power. His goal was to become the Demon Lord. Kelvin started sweating and he was smiling. He could feel the intensity of fighting in S rank. Victor asked him about why he was smiling. Kelvin said that he never met a worthy opponent before, and it could not help him get excited. Victor thought that it was interesting that Gerard mentioned Kelvin's bad habit again. Ifeil got curious and asked him about what bad habits he was talking about. Gerard told her that during his fight with Kelvin, he was smiling and he had a habit of getting more excited with a more powerful opponent. Ifeil understood and said that it means Kelvin was a total battle junkie. Kelvin gets excited and he can't control his smile, which makes Victor confused. It's all because Victor almost equals the strength of Kelvin, and it's the first time Kelvin feels pushed into a corner. Looks like he discovered being domed isn't even that bad, but maybe more exciting. Victor tells Kelvin that he's going to show him something really interesting. He uses his magic and calls Hades' army. The dead rotten skull raises and starts moving. Kelvin sees that Victor can use black magic, and he knows it's going to be fun. Victor says that he's using black magic to increase the number because he wants to outnumber them. He also wants to see Kelvin's true strength. All the monsters jump on Kelvin and his party. Kelvin sees that all the skeletons are equal to a B-rank monster. He uses wind shot and wipes them out in a second. Gerard starts to attack the other coming skeletons. He knows that it's going to be really hard to deal with a large number, and also notices that their moves are very effective. Victor gets impressed and tells them that they fight well individually and also in the team. Gerard goes to the side and tells Kelvin to take care of the center. Victor assumes that Kelvin and his party members feel like young veterans who fight like they have seen a lot of battles together. Kelvin smiles and tells him that he gives quite some condescending remarks. He thinks that Victor is still taking him easy. Victor tells him that even when he was in the back robe, still he looks like a battle junkie. Kelvin tells him that he can call it a sickness because he can't help but to get more excited. Victor gets energized, he uses his left hand to attack, and tells Kelvin that he's going to wipe that excitement off his face. He doesn't realize Kelvin is loving getting under him. He creates smoke to hide in it. Gerard knows that Victor is going to sneak on them. Kelvin tells Gerard to get relaxed because he already memorized his presence. Victor tries to attack them, but Kelvin tells Gerard about his location. Gerard protects himself against the attack and Victor gets aware that they can feel his presence. He tries again to attack Kelvin but fails and Kelvin dodges it successfully. Victor can travel through the floor like it's a pool, which helps him to hide himself. Kelvin sees that Gerard's defense is useless against the Archdemon. Victor tells Kelvin that he's going to be much faster than before. Sounds wrong, but let's move on. He hits the ground and he can stretch his hand. He gets close to Kelvin while his hand keeps Kelvin busy. Well, every single scene here sounds like they are having intense gay banging. Kelvin gets pushed toward the corner and he calls Clotho for help at the right time. Clotho gets attached to Victor's arm and he's surprised because it's a mere slime. Kelvin knows that physical attacks are unable to work on Victor. He decides to use Mana Drain. Kelvin uses his water magic attack and aims it at Victor. He suppresses him and Victor admits that he's stronger than he expected. Gerard gets impressed by Kelvin, but he knows that he won't be able to hold Victor back for much longer. Victor is going to attack them and Kelvin decides to make a combined attack with Gerard. He uses Vortex Edge and overpowers Gerard's sword. Victor secretly stretches his arm behind Kelvin and knows that he let his guard down. He thinks that he's going to win, but Kelvin smiles and tells him that he's wrong. Ifeil is right behind Victor and he's shocked that she breaks through his presence detection, and he also fails to break out of stealth. Ifeil shoots a blaze arrow toward Victor and Gerard rushes toward him from front. Victor stops Ifeil's attack, but she turns his armored skin into rust and Gerard slashes his other arm and separates it from his body. Kelvin gets relieved because they turned the tides of the fight, but he also knows that the Glory Sanctuary effect is gone. He tells everyone to move away from Victor. Victor stands on his foot and tells Kelvin that he's the second person who's capable of doing that to him. He assumes that he also has grown soft in the peaceful time. Kelvin asks him if he's going to surrender. Victor asks him if he thinks that he would accept the defeat after coming all along, but it's too funny for him. He laughs at him and taunts that the words surrender coming out from a battle junkie are quite funny. Victor tells him that the true battle is just going to start. He uses his dark magic named Jin Scrimmage and covers it all over into black clouds. Kelvin and his party get attentive, and Gerard is going to make him aware of the danger. Kelvin stops him and tells him that there's no need to wait for Gerard's attack. He attacks Clef Detonation at Victor. Ifale uses her arrow and attacks him too with Pyrohydra Primary. Gerard uses his sword and attacks Agito. All of their attacks are useless at Victor because he gets a lot powerful. Kelvin knows that they're too late. Gerard gets exhausted and gets curious about the skill of Victor. Kelvin tells Gerard to activate the loyalty at its full strength. Gerard asks him if he's sure because he's capable of maintaining it for a short time. Kelvin is sure because Victor is too dangerous for them to handle without activating full power. Victor knows that the fight is at its final round. Kelvin challenges him and tells him to attack them with full power. He's trying to provoke Victor. Victor starts flying and jumps at them. Kelvin makes a stone wall with his magic and Gerard comes in front of them with his shield. Victor breaks the stone wall and Gerard barely stops him. Gerard is slipping back regardless of his high defense. Melfina tells Gerard that they'll lose the fight and die eventually if he isn't able to stop Victor. She tells him to hold his ground no matter what. Gerard says that his princess sure works hard. He knows that he can't call himself a knight if he loses the battle. He pushes Victor back and Victor knows that it wouldn't be easy to face him. Victor attacks Gerard from behind and throws him on the ground and goes ahead to punch him. Ifale shoots an arrow at him and stops him from attacking Gerard. She tells Gerard not to give up and offers him that they should end the fight together. She keeps Victor busy so that he won't be able to harm Gerard and also buys time for him to recover. Gerard stands again and tells her that it's just beginning. He starts moving his sword and attacks Victor. Kelvin knows that they have to attack Victor again to defeat him, and he attacks him with his magic flame again. Victor tells him that he doesn't know when to give up. Kelvin smiles and tells him that it's because he knows that they're going to be the victors. Kelvin summons Clotho on top of Victor and tells him to make him taste death. Clotho has stored a lot of cursed weapons in his mouth and rains it on top of Victor. The cursed weapon works on Victor and he's shocked about how Clotho got so many cursed weapons. Kelvin tells him that all those weapons were from the enemy who failed against Clotho. He's glad because finally, they're useful for him. Kelvin, Ifale, and Gerard attack Victor and he knows that he won't be able to hold his ground against them, and if he dodges it, the attack is going to hit the princess. Victor stands in front of the attack and gets hurt badly. He's sent flying toward the pillar, and the pillar gets destroyed because of the shock. The rubble of the pillar is going to fall on the Demon King's daughter and Victor protects her from it. He catches the stone while he's bleeding and later he gives up and admits to Kelvin that he's defeated. Kelvin tells Victor that he wants to ask him something. Victor gets curious about what he wants to know about the whole fight. Kelvin is suspicious and asks him if he doesn't intend to eat the Demon King's daughter. He asks him about why he lied to them in the first place. Victor tells him that if they wouldn't have lied to them, then they wouldn't have come at him with their full strength. He knew that he was trusted by Gustav for the protection of his daughter. Victor tells Kelvin that he was entrusted by the Demon Lord several centuries ago with the responsibility of looking after Sarah-sama. Coming back to the past, Victor was the trainer of Sarah. At that time, he's teaching her about how to infuse the magic into their fists. She fails the training because she has no idea about how to infuse the magic into her hand. Victor laughs at Sarah and tells her that it would be embarrassing for him if she could master his special skill. He tells the Demon Lord's daughter that there's no need to rush because demons have a long lifespan anyway. Sarah is curious if she has to live in the castle for her entire life. She's sad because his father didn't meet her. The Demon Lord hides that he had a daughter from the world so that he could keep her safe. Victor is the only family of Sarah, and he's the only person who spends time with her in the castle. He even cooks all the food for her too. Sarah likes the sandwich and Victor used to get her back to training after she finished her lunch. Sarah doesn't have any friends and she's also restricted from leaving the castle. That's why she's lonely. One day, the Demon Lord gets attacked by the heroes because they found his castle. Victor regrets because he wanted to die for his Demon Lord, but before his death, Gustav commands him to keep taking care of Sarah for the rest of his life. Gustav knows very clearly that if his daughter's identity gets discovered, she's going to be the target of not just heroes but also for the demon of fraction. The demon lord cast the spell on her daughter and sealed her, which was only capable of getting unlocked by the humans. Victor tells Kelvin that the humans are very weak in comparison to demons, and the chances of Sarah escaping are very high if her seal would be broken by the human who wasn't a hero. It's rare to find someone who isn't hero but also more powerful than demon. That's why Victor wants to lure Kelvin and make him break the seal. The instant death of Gustav caused Sarah to get sealed and sent to a far location. Victor is against that. He wants the demon lord to ask his daughter's opinion at the least. He waits for centuries for heroes to die and the conflict to become a thing of the past. He wants to wait for a peaceful and perfect time so that Sarah could rule the world as the new demon lord. Victor is bleeding and he doesn't have much time left. He admits that things didn't go as planned. Before dying, Victor tells Kelvin that he has a request and asks him if he could accept Sarah-sama as his companion. He knows that Kelvin is strong, and he's also accepted by his companions. Victor is impressed that Kelvin even has monsters as his companion. Clotho and Gerard are stunned because they didn't notice that it was so weird. Victor also knows that Kelvin is a summoner. That's why he's relieved that he could easily entrust him over the protection of Sarah. He tells Kelvin that Sarah might have regained consciousness. He thinks that she might be able to break the seal. Victor says that Sarah might possibly listen to their conversation. Kelvin knows that Victor isn't lying at all, and he offers him if he also wants to be his companion. He tells him that he can heal him easily if he agrees on becoming his companion. Victor knows that it's a tempting offer, but he is loyal to his demon lord and he also doesn't want to serve anyone other than him. He tells Kelvin that he doesn't have much time left and wishes that Sarah could see the world finally. Victor takes his last breath and dies in front of them. The whole room turns back to normal because slowly Victor's magic starts vanishing. Ephale tries to stop Kelvin from accepting Sarah as his companion and tells him that she could be demon lord any day. Kelvin tells her that it's useless because he is already sentimental. He breaks the seal and makes Sarah his companion. He asks her if she can hear her. Sarah opens her eyes and the first thing she says is that her father and Victor are fools. She gets sad and starts crying like a child. Sarah is feeling lonely because the only person she knows is dead. Kelvin sees Sarah miserable and decides that he will fulfill the wish of Victor. He tries to console Sarah and puts his hand on her head. Later, Kelvin, Gerard, and Ephale come out of the treehouse while Kelvin is carrying Sarah on his back. Old sees them and comes running toward them. He asks them if they are fine, and Kelvin tells him that they managed to slay the demon and come out in perfect shape. He asks Ephale to come forward, and she shows a piece of metal to them. Kelvin tells Old that it's the proof of completion. He tells him that the guild can also verify it. Old gets satisfied and tells them that he's glad to see them safe. Kelvin introduces Sarah as a human girl and tells him that the demon was possessing her. He tells Old that the previous party might have seen her inside. Kelvin cleverly uses a clip of camouflage on Sarah, which helps hide her demon identity, horn, and wings. The clip was given to Sarah by Victor, and Kelvin smiles because the archhuman really cared for her. Kelvin tells Old that the girl is weak and goes away with her. He mentions the cleanup, and Old tells him that they are going to take care of it. Gerard is acting weirdly, and Old suspects that the knight is also tired. He tells them to rest for the day. After they go to a hill near the town, Kelvin uses his magic and heals Gerard. Gerard gets refreshed and feels excited. He thinks that something is going to come out of him. Kelvin asks him if that's the first thing he has to say after evolving. Gerard tells him that he couldn't control himself and he had to level up after evolving. Kelvin remembers that Clotho was also acting weird. He analyzes Gerard and sees his stats off the chart. Ephale tells them that the shield of Gerard is also repaired and it looks totally new. She sees it and it looks even stronger than before. Gerard tells them that it's all because of his dedication as the way of the night. Kelvin makes fun of him and tells him that he can only see an old geezer trembling in front of him. Sarah is sitting at the side and Kelvin asks her if she is fine. She tells Kelvin that she is feeling calm, but she gets worried and asks Kelvin if he is sure about accepting the former demon lord's daughter as his follower. She admits that it's weird to hear from her. Sarah is worried that she will eventually put them in danger too. He tells her that he possesses the S rank concealment. He knows that it's enough to save them from Analyze I. Sarah is surprised because Kelvin was able to defeat Victor, and it amazes her that he even has a positive attitude. She asks him if he isn't a hero because she wants to make sure of it. Kelvin tells her that the heroes are elsewhere so that she doesn't have to worry. He blushes and tells her that he is just a small adventurer. Sarah smiles nervously and tells him that they are all weird. Kelvin tells her that they should get going. Sarah gets worried and tells him that she has never been to a city before. It's because she has never stepped outside of the mansion. Kelvin asks her if she is feeling nervous. Sarah admits that it's just for a bit. Ifale, Clotho, and Gerard come, and she tells Sarah that everything is going to be fine. Ifale says that the people in the town are all nice folks. Gerard encourages her and tells her that she will get used to it soon. Sarah gets motivated and says that she will try her best. Kelvin and the others pass through the main gate of the city and introduce it to Sarah. He tells her that the city's name is Parth, and that is the place they are living in. When Sarah sees the bazaar, she is amazed because there is a variety of fruit and other stalls she never saw before. Her eyes shine, and she is unable to control her excitement. She starts running in the city, smiling like a small child. She tells Kelvin that she never saw things like that exist because she never went to any city before. Ifale accompanies her and tells her that she doesn't have to shout loudly. Sarah blushes and tells Ifale not to treat her like a child. Later, Kelvin gets irritated because he gets promoted to rank A. He assumes that the guild master Rio used the quest as an excuse for his promotion exam. Kelvin goes to the adventure guild and sees everyone celebrating. They all congratulate Kelvin and celebrate his promotion to rank A. Kelvin gets frustrated and acts like he is happy, all because Ange found out about the news of his promotion. Sarah is confused at the party while Ifale and Clary engage in a cooking rivalry competition. Kelvin finds out during the party that Clary and Old are a married couple. Everyone at the party bombards Kelvin with questions because they are curious about his relationship with Sarah. At the end, Kelvin also enjoys the party. It is a dark night and everyone is sleeping after celebrating all night. Kelvin wakes up and sees that Sarah isn't there. Sarah is sitting outside of the adventure office, staring at the sky. She tells Kelvin that the world Victor told her about turned out to be noisy, but she knows it is also full of excitement. Sarah decides that she will live her life to the fullest for the sake of her father and Victor. Kelvin listens to her from behind the door. Victor, a general manager of Demon Lord Gustav, lying on the floor, unconscious. Victor has been defeated by Kelvin, Ifale, and Gerard. Gustav has a daughter named Sarah. After successfully defeating Victor, Kelvin broke the seal and took Sarah into his party. Sarah seems very sad as she cries loudly because she just lost her father. Well, now she will have some daddy issues, which is good for us weebs to feed on. After some time, Kelvin asks Sarah if she wants to join his team, and she finally agrees. Kelvin raises his right hand in the direction of Sarah. In a blink, Sarah converts into little fairy lights. These fairy lights gather around Kelvin and then become a single ball of light. This ball of light comes near Kelvin's chest and absorbs in it. Now Kelvin can feel Sarah in him. Sounded pretty sexual, honestly. Kelvin congratulates her for joining his party. Kelvin expresses his concerns about how important Victor is to Sarah. Sarah, in a disappointed voice, thanks Victor for everything he has done for Sarah. After some time, Kelvin, Sarah, Ifale, Gerard, and Clotho are present at Kelvin's inn. They seem very happy as they talk about the upgradation of their skills, but Clotho seems extra happy as he keeps jumping excitedly. Kelvin sways in joy as he tells everyone that after defeating Victor, Kelvin's smithing skills and Ifale's tailoring skills have reached rank S. It means that it is time to hold a new equipment unveiling party. Kelvin takes a start from Sarah. He made her a pair of gauntlets named a rondite. A gauntlet is a glove covered in steel that is worn in suits of armor. Sarah's gauntlets are very powerful because, as per Sarah's request, these are made of Victor's carapace, which means they rank as S gauntlets. These are made up of shiny metal and have a black color with a golden outline, a silver shoulder cover, and a huge red stone engraved in it. It sounds like an iPhone cover of an average 2020 TikTok user. She gives a demo of it to show its potential to everyone as requested by Kelvin. Ifale tells everyone about the protected gear that she made for Sarah. The gear's name is Queen's Terror. The gear includes a semi-long blue coat, black long shoes, and a purple cave. Her gear is also very powerful because it is also ranked S gear. Sarah expresses her love for the name of the gear. She thinks of its meaning as striking terror into her enemy's heart. Kelvin asks if Sarah is happy that her gauntlets are made of Victor's carapace. Sarah, looking at the gauntlets, says she is very happy with that as she feels like Victor is lending her strength. Kelvin looks relieved because Sarah is happy with him and his team. Next comes Gerard's turn. Kelvin crafted a demonic sword for Gerard named Dainsleif. It is a very powerful sword because it is also of rank S. The size and weight of this sword are the same as the sword Gerard is currently using. According to Kelvin, Gerard can easily get used to it with time. The sword is gray with red lines and a huge red stone, beautifully engraved on it. The red lines enhance its beauty even more. Gerard excitedly grabs the sword and quickly determines that it is almost the same as the previous one. Sarah asks about Kelvin's and Nephal's equipment, to which Kelvin, in a mysterious tone, tells her to wait till the next fight. Sarah looks annoyed to hear Kelvin. Kelvin seems very tired due to all the crafting. He yawns as he lays down on Clotho and requests some food before he falls asleep. Nephal asks Kelvin what he likes to eat so she can make it for him. Kelvin pauses for a while and then, in a very serious tone, replies rice. He then gets up and tells everyone that he wants to eat rice. Nephal looks surprised as she does not know what rice is. She asks Kelvin, and Gerard and Sarah comes forward to listen to his explanation. Kelvin's hands shake as he lifts them, remembering the nice aroma of rice. He shouts as he explains about rice. Its sheen, texture, and carbohydrates that get sweeter after chewing make Kelvin's mouth watery. He starts shouting like a kid that he wants to eat rice as he can't wait anymore. Everyone is sitting in a horse cart and on their way to Toraj City. Toraj is a nation of water and is situated by the ocean. Kelvin and Nephal are focused on their books while Sarah looks at the beauty of nature with a spark in her eyes. She looks at the flowing river and excitedly turns toward Kelvin to tell him about it. Kelvin asks Sarah if she wants to go fishing. Sarah does not know about fishing, so she kneels in front of Kelvin and asks him about it. Kelvin promises her that he will show it after they reach Toraj. Sarah gets more excited and tells him that she is looking forward to it. Then she returns to her seat. After that, Kelvin recalls the reasons behind this trip to Toraj. The first reason for this trip is the promise he made to Victor that he would give Sarah a chance to see the world. The second reason for this trip is that he hears about a thing similar to rice that is only available in Toraj. Since he hears about rice, he is planning to visit Toraj. Nephal also expresses her wish to see and taste rice. Kelvin thinks about the city of Toraj, its speciality, its delicious rice, and his wish to visit it. Luckily, his guild master Rio gave him the approval for this trip, so without wasting any time, he plans the trip. Clotho and Gerard ask him about Princess Melfina through telepathy. He tells them about Princess Melfina's sudden disappearance as he recalls a scene from his past. In the memory, when Kelvin woke up hungover one day, Melfina told him that his inability to summon Melfina was because of her divine class. So she had no choice but to use an artificial body. She was going to possess an artificial body that could conceal his divinity. For that, she needed to be off for a while because she had to make some adjustments to that body. If all goes well, Kelvin will soon be able to summon her. Then a pink light appeared from nowhere, came near Kelvin's ear, and said something. The pink light was Melfina. She told Kelvin that her appearance would remain the same as before, so Kelvin could fall in love at first sight with her again. After listening to this, Kelvin started blushing. Even the strongest of the men feel giggly in front of hot women. Melfina giggles at seeing Kelvin's blushing face and leaves again. The memory ends here. Sarah excitedly comes to Kelvin to tell him about the boat flowing in the river. She expresses her wish to ride it. Kelvin politely tells her to ride next time. Sarah is shocked as he listens to Kelvin. Nephal immediately comes to the rescue as she tries to distract Kelvin and Sarah by asking Kelvin a question from the book she is reading. Meanwhile, Gerard and Clotho finally understand why Princess Melfina was so in a hurry to leave. Sarah expresses her worries that some people have been staring at them from behind the shadows for a while now. Kelvin agrees with Sarah as he also notices them. The cart driver is also listening to their conversation, so he gets afraid after listening to the people. After some time, a lady with short blue hair comes out from behind the tree and stops the cart. After that, 4 strong men approach the cart. One of the men looks in the cart and tells his lady boss that there are 2 beautiful ladies. The blue-haired lady becomes very happy to hear that because her boss will be pleased with the news. The cart owner asks about their whereabouts. The blue-haired lady shows her tattoo, which is engraved on her leg, and informs everyone in a swag that they are from the Black Wine Gang. Listening to the name of the Black Wine Gang, the cart driver gets afraid. Kelvin asks the driver about them. He tells him that they are a gang of bandits that got quite notorious in Tourej a while ago. He further tells Kelvin that, as he recalls, this gang has been wiped out by some rank A adventurer from Trison. The blue-haired lady makes fun of Kelvin and his friends by calling them cowards and that they are trembling in fear after listening to their names. In the meantime, Kelvin looks at them carefully, his eyes turning blue as he analyzes the enemy's level. He realizes that everyone's levels lie between 25 and 30, which is quite lesser than Kelvin and his friends. He sits back in his seat, instructs Sarah to take good care of the enemies, and starts reading a book himself. Sarah happily agrees and wears her gauntlets for the fight. Kelvin advises her to not use Arondite because it will become too bloody as the enemies are quite low-leveled. So she quickly removes it and gets out of the cart to fight. As Sarah jumps out of the cart, the Black Wine members are shocked to see a girl coming out to fight. They are overconfident as they talk about the adventures of Parth, which is mostly C-class. The blue-haired lady instructs his minions to be easy with Sarah because their boss will be angry if Sarah gets hurt badly. Then a man comes near Sarah to have some fun with her. Sarah refuses to do so and punches him. Her punch is so strong that the man flies higher and lands far from the cart. Sarah herself started worrying as she tried her best to pull the punch, but still, it was strong. The blue-haired girl starts panicking. She sends more minions towards Sarah. Sarah again throws all the men away with just one punch. Then, a huge and muscular man moves forward to hit Sarah with his big wooden hammer. He strikes the hammer with full strength, but Sarah comfortably stops the strike using her one hand. The muscle man uses his full force and pushes the hammer, but isn't able to do anything about Sarah. Seeing this makes the blue-haired lady all sweaty because the muscle man has over 200 strength. Then Sarah pushes the muscle man and he falls behind with his hammer on his top. The blue-haired lady gets afraid badly, and she tries to run, but Sarah does not let her run away. She then grabs every member of the Black Wine Gang and ties them with rope. The reason behind Sarah's strength is that her level is above 70 and the Black Wine Gang members' level is between 25 and 30, which is quite low in front of Sarah's level. Sarah feels very happy and relaxed after the fight. She uses telepathy to thank Gerard for giving her mana at the time of summoning. The blue-haired lady's attitude is still high. She warns Kelvin and his team members that her boss's level is 70, so there is no need to be happy. This makes Kelvin more excited. He comes near the blue-haired lady and asks more about her boss. Finally, Kelvin and his friends reach Tourej, the nation of water. As they roam in the streets, Kelvin finds it similar to feudal Japan. Then they all go to see the ocean. Ifale and Sarah stand at the shore of the ocean while Kelvin stands behind them. Sarah gets emotional when she sees the ocean. She talks to Victor in her mind and tells him that she is standing in front of the ocean. She remembers as she gets emotional that Victor promised to teach her swimming. Kelvin notices that Sarah is emotional, so he calls her. Sarah turns excitedly towards Kelvin and requests him to teach her swimming. Kelvin agrees to teach her. Sarah then turns toward Ifale and excitedly asks her if she has ever swum before. Ifale also excitedly replies to Sarah that she has never swum before but would love to try it with her. Kelvin becomes very happy to see his friends happy and thinks that he could probably go straight to dive in the ocean if he does not have the stuff in the cart. At the Adventure Guild of Tourej, Kelvin and his friends meet with the Guild Master Mist. She introduces herself to Kelvin and his friends and thanks them for capturing an officer of the Black Wine Gang. In return, Kelvin and his introduce themselves, one by one. Then they sit down to talk further. Guild Master Mist tells Kelvin that Guild Master Rio already told her about Kelvin as a ranked A adventurer. As Guild Master Rio and Kelvin don't get along well, so Kelvin hopes that Rio told something good about him. Guild Master Mist laughs as he hears Kelvin's concerns and tells him that Guild Master Rio talks too much about Kelvin. Kelvin gets quite shocked about it because, during their interaction, he has never shown any sign of it. Guildmaster Mist assures him that Guildmaster Rio can rather be an obstinate figure than an expressing person. Kelvin notices that Guildmaster Mist and Guildmaster Rio know each other very well. Guildmaster Mist tells him that 20 years ago they were in the same team. He was known as the Analyzer back then because he tended to peek at others' status. Kelvin laughs as he says that he was also his victim. The topic immediately shifts from Guildmaster Rio to the Black Wine Gang as Kelvin asked about it from Guildmaster Mist. Guildmaster Mist assures him that they have shared the information he provided with other branches, but she is very shocked to know that the party that destroyed Black Wine before has taken over the gang, and Christophe, the champion of Trison, supposedly wiped off the gang is such big news for them. She further says that now the party has turned into a bunch of kidnappers and human traffickers, and they are operating it in the shadow of a champion. Sarah becomes furious to listen to all this. She says that she wants to find them to teach them a great lesson. Guildmaster Mist tells her that they are currently in the city of Taraj, so Hefail and Sarah demand their information so they can defeat them. Guildmaster Mist informs Sarah and Hefail that Christophe is a well-respected champion of Trison and a reckless strike would risk causing an international clash between Trison and Taraj. Sarah gets furious as she believes that they can't be able to do anything if they keep thinking about all this. Kelvin tells her to calm down because Guildmaster Mist means that they need to prepare first. Kelvin thinks about the level of Christophe. Christophe's level is 70, which is very low for Kelvin. He thinks that it would be too boring to fight him, but if his level rises to almost 20, then it would be interesting for him. He looks at the roof as he thinks of a plan, and suddenly gets surprised. He calls Sarah through telepathy and Sarah instantly understands that there is something serious, and that is why they are having a secret conversation. He asks if Sarah can detect 4 powerful presences with her presence detection. She demands some time to analyze. She then closes her eyes, places her hand on her forehead, and tells Kelvin that she can sense the presence. There are powerful presences at the city gate and their levels are almost 50. Kelvin smiles devilishly as he considers himself lucky. He stands up and tells everyone to let the heroes handle everything. The heroes of Duramus include Toya Kanzaki, a male member, and Setsuna Shiga, Miyabi Kuromiya, and Nana Miroba, who are female members. They arrive at the Adventurers Guild to meet Guildmaster Mist. The Guildmaster informs them about a bandit team in Toraj City and asks the heroes to help them out. Setsuna reminds Toya of the reason to come to Taraj. They are here by the prophecy of Melfina to look for a ship that can sail them to the Rizine Empire in the western continent. She informs Toya that they don't have time to fight with the bandit. Toya tries to explain to her that they are heroes and they must solve people's problems and protect their peaceful lives. Setsuna says that Toya's people-saving mode has turned on, and they keep arguing with each other for quite a long time. On the other hand, Guildmaster Mist is worried because she has done as Kelvin told her to do, but she is not sure if this plan will work or not. He plans to let the righteous heroes strike Christophe down. That is how Trison would not be able to protest. Guildmaster Mist asks if they have to ask the heroes to help them or does he have another plan. Kelvin turns as he smiles devilishly. After all, his main plan is to fight the heroes himself because he just loves to fight. At Christophe's base, many girls have been locked in jail. Their hands and feet are tied with chains. All of them have been kidnapped by the Black Wine Gang, and most of them are little kids. They look terrified as a really ugly man, having purple lips and a weird color, smiles devilishly, and cleans his dagger so that he can kill all of the innocent kids. One of them is a mother-daughter pair, and the daughter's name is Ruka. The mother feels useless to see her daughter like this as she is not even able to help her child. A man who is sitting with the ugly man reminds him about the task that his chief has given him. He has to find Karna's missing squad. This is the same squad that is held by Kelvin and his friends. The ugly man, being a careless person, tells him that she can do it after he kills these little kids. He enters the dungeon and picks Ruka to kill. Ruka and her mother get all sweaty because of fear and start screaming. The other man warns him that these people are valuable merchandise and their chief won't be happy about it. Suddenly he hears a voice, so he follows it. After some time, the ugly man is struggling to separate Ruka from her mother when he hears a bang. He quickly turns to see what is happening and finds out that his other member is dead and Kelvin and his team are standing there. The ugly man instantly understands that they are responsible for Karna and her squad's sudden disappearance. He tries to pick his dagger from his pocket. In the meantime, Kelvin signals Gerard to kill him. Gerard punches him, and in a single strike, the ugly man dies. Everyone in the dungeon becomes very happy to know that they are safe. They thank Kelvin and his friends. On the other hand, Christophe and his team are having a small meeting. Priscilla, one of Christophe's team members, shouts at him as she asks about what is happening here. Christophe informs her that one of his kidnapping squads, which is led by Karna, went missing, and his instincts say that they have been wiped out. Priscilla is shocked to listen and panics because this is a top-secret mission from Trison. The other countries won't remain silent if they find out about this. Moreover, they could be discarded by Trison forever, and that would be the worst thing for them. She turns towards Otto, also a member of Christophe's side, and requests him to do something as their lives are at stake. Otto keeps silent for a moment and then talks as he wishes to fight some worthy opponents. Listening to Otto makes Priscilla even more angry. Christophe tries to calm Priscilla. He tells Priscilla that he has sent Hopper to investigate this matter, and they will soon find out what is happening in the city. This is how they can prevent further damage. Suddenly, he hears someone knocking on the door. He informs the person to come later as they are in the middle of something. Then the door opens and they find out that Hooper is standing there. In a blink he falls and everyone rushes to see him. Kelvin and his team come forward to attack them. After one strike, Kelvin asks if he is Christophe. Christophe understands that Kelvin is behind Karna's sudden disappearance. He removes his mask and comes in the form of to fight. He gets excited to fight someone powerful. Kelvin instantly turns his excitement into shock as he refuses to fight with him on his face. He insults him by calling him dirty dishes, which he is going to wash away before a main course is served. His stick starts shining, and in a flash, the Black Wine Gang is defeated. The heroes also arrive at the Black Wine Gang's base to defeat them. They feel weird as they have not seen a single person since they have entered here. They talk about what the guild master told them about the rank A adventurer who had set out ahead of them. Nano is worried if they are really at the right place. Toya tells her that it is all right because he already checked the vicinity. He knows that it is the only suspicious building for a hideout. Toya asks Setsuna if she can sense anything suspicious with the presence detection skill she picked earlier. Setsuna checks and tells him that there is a large group of people right ahead of them. She can't detect anything further. Toya tells them that they should check because there is a chance that the captives are near them. Miyabi touches the wall and tells them that there is something wrong with the place. She can't detect signs of fighting or corpses. Miyabi says that they should catch the captives first to get a grasp of the situation. They reach the room in which Kelvin is waiting for them. Setsuna starts panicking because everything is going well oddly, and even her danger detection skill is quiet. Toya gets frustrated and tells them that they should get inside to find out what is happening. Toya kicks the door and sees Clotho in front of him. He also finds out all the captive girls. He draws his sword to attack the slime he is curious about because of its size. Ruka stops Toya and tells him that the slime belongs to the big brother who saved them. Ruka's mother apologizes to Toya and tells him that her daughter has become a big fan of the adventurer who saved them. Toya grows dull, and the other girls don't know what's happening. Ruka's mother asks Toya about his identity. Setsuna tries to stop him from giving away his name. Toya carelessly introduces himself as the hero of Deramis, Toya Kanzaki. The captive girls are glad that the gods sent heroes to help them. Toya gets nervous and tells the others to raise their heads because he does not know anything yet. Nano hugs Clotho and tries to talk to her. She tells her party members that the slime was ordered to stay and protect them. Toya gets curious that someone chose a slime to tame, and he also knows that there aren't many people who have tamers. Rula's mother asks for a favor from Toya to help the rank adventurer who saved them. She tells them that there are still many bandits ahead. Toya and his party hurry, eager to help the rank adventurer as soon as possible. They see the bandits lying on the floor and think that they are heroes. After going ahead, he sees Kelvin and his party members who are also waiting for them. In a hall, some men are lying unconsciously on the floor. Kelvin, Ephale, Sarah, and Gerard the robot are also present there. The men that are lying unconsciously on the floor are Black Wine Gang members, and Kelvin defeated them. Now, Kelvin takes the Black Wine's position so he can fight with the heroes. Kelvin and his friends are looking towards the corridor that is attached to the hall, and smile devilishly as they wait for someone, as if some concubines are going to be serving them. In a minute, a young boy appears from the corridor asking about the leader of Black Wine Gang. He does not know Kelvin and his friends, so he assumes that Kelvin is the Black Wine Gang's leader. With the boy, there are 3 girls. So basically there are 4 girls because boy besties are no less than girls. They all look determined to defeat their enemies. Kelvin does not clear the misunderstanding but increases it as he points towards the Black Wine members and calls them awful because they can't even handle a little punishment. He tells their identity as an A-ranked adventurer and keeps saying bad things in order to make the young boy furious. By listening to Kelvin's thoughts, the young boy gets angry and introduces himself as Toya Kanzaki, a hero of Daramis. His teammates also introduce themselves as Setsuna Shiga, Nana Mizuoka, and Miyabi Kuromiya. They are the heroes and they protect people from brutal villains. Toya warns Kelvin to defeat him at any cost. After listening to Toya Kanzaki and seeing his determination, Kelvin starts laughing devilishly to make Toya angrier. He sure does know how to make the young blood boil within seconds. He then stands up from his sofa, walks towards Toya, and states that if he wants to defeat Kelvin, he has to be strong enough. Toya gets very angry about seeing Kelvin fearless. Setsuna Shiga tries to calm Toya and warns him that Kelvin is trying to make him angry on purpose. Well, not everyone can understand manipulation, just like most of y'all losers could not, and then some twink or druggie steals away your girls. Kelvin then offers to have a 4-on-1 fight with the heroes. This means all 4 members of the hero group have to fight against Kelvin alone. The loser team has to obey an order by the winner, and the order can be anything. Miyabi Kuromiya likes the idea as she thinks that it will be a great advantage for the heroes, but all 3 members seem afraid. Toya Kanzaki tries to be a gentleman as he demands to fight Kelvin alone because he can't fight him in such a dishonorable way. Setsuna Shiga does not like Toya's idea of fighting alone, and she tries to convince him to fight in a group. Her keen eye makes her think that Kelvin must be hiding something and Toya alone can't defeat him. Miyabi Kuromiya, also known as the wise person, says that she can't even tell how much magic that Black-robed man is hiding. She adds further that maybe he has magic more than her, so they need to be very careful. Toya Kanzaki seems satisfied with his team members' explanations and takes permission from everyone. Everyone nods their heads to assure Toya that they are with him. Toya Kanzaki then energetically announces that he accepts Kelvin's offer. After the agreement, all the heroes, Kelvin, and the team come to a bigger hall to fight. Both teams start their meeting in 2 different corners. Kelvin seems happy as he never expected that things would become this easy. Ifale, a female cook of Kelvin's team, knows Kelvin very well, and she tells everyone that he is doing all this so these heroes become the witnesses of the event, and Kristoff and his party would lose the protection of Trison. Kelvin agrees with Ifale. He is happy because the young boy from the heroes team is innocent, and he easily accepts his offer. Gerard, on the other hand, completely understands Kelvin's extraordinary plan that Kelvin is calling himself a member of the Black Wind team only to fight these heroes. He is impressed by Kelvin's powers and calls him a battle junkie. Kelvin expresses his concerns as he says that he had no option other than that, and if he did not call himself a Black Wind member, the heroes never agreed to fight Kelvin, and in case they agreed, they would never fight him the way he wanted them to. Sarah expresses her wish to fight with the heroes. Kelvin gently refuses because Sarah has had her share of fighting on the way to this castle. After that, Kelvin asks Ifale to bring the lunch out. As soon as Ifale brings the lunch, Sarah becomes very happy to see delicious-looking sandwiches. The only time a girl gets happy is when she sees food or sees a man twice her age, so she can fix him. She instantly moves toward Ifale and starts eating lunch like she has not eaten anything in a long time. Kelvin gets happy to see his team members happy and requests them to enjoy their food and be good spectators today. On the other hand, Ifale is worried for Kelvin as she requests Kelvin not to fight with the heroes alone. She accepts the fact that the level of all the heroes is lower than Kelvin, but all of them together it's a little risky. Jared reminds them that they all possess some unique skill of unknown effect. Kelvin becomes worried for a while after listening to his team members. He uses his Analyze Eye skill to analyze the opponent team's powers. After analyzing them for a moment and getting to know more about their powers, Kelvin seems relieved. He assures everyone and tells them that he wants to test his ability in which he is really weak, and that is fighting a bunch of enemies together. And to execute his plan successfully, he crafted new equipment. He lifts his arm and shows his new equipment to everyone, which is a glove with some yellow, gray, and blue lines and a huge blue stone engraved on it. The name of the new equipment is Skill Eater, and it is a rank S equipment. It works as when someone wearing this equipment touches someone else. The Skill Eater sucks all his powers, and the one wearing the glove gets all the sucked powers. On the other hand, the heroes have finished their meeting and look at Kelvin and the team while they are discussing their plan. The heroes say that Kelvin's surroundings are full of an evil atmosphere. Toya Kanzaki assumes that as Kelvin is the leader of the bandit group, he must have committed many crimes. So it is very important for them to defeat him. The heroes look extremely determined. Then, they all start to prepare themselves for the battle. Toya Kanzaki requests the Spirit of Light to lend him some strength. Setsuna Shiga requests the Spirit of Wind to support her in the battle. Nana Mizuoka requests the Spirit of Water to help her, and Miyabi Kuromiya requests the Spirit of Darkness to help her win the battle, and also requests her to not get tired quickly because the Spirit of Darkness is a little weak. Kelvin is keenly observing everything from a distance. After the hero's transformation, he finally gets to know that they get their powers from the Spirit of Blessings, and their spirits are Wind, Darkness, Light, and Water. Then Toya Kanzaki takes the lead as he runs towards Kelvin with his sword to hit Kelvin, and this is how the fight starts. Kelvin is standing still in his position without any fear in his eyes, and is happy to see that Toya Kanzaki has decided to take the lead, maybe because he thinks that Kelvin is the mage. He appreciates Toya Kanzaki for making a very good decision. Then he lifts his stick in the sky and attacks Toya Kanzaki with Radiance Lance, a lightning strike. This attack is quite intense as Toya and Setsuna struggle a lot to dodge the attack. Setsuna calls Kelvin insane as he calls himself a mage after attacking them with such a powerful strike. They finally succeed in securing themselves from such an intense attack. After that, Nana shouts Munchan and orders him to come out of the bag she is carrying. Munchan comes out and it is a little red dragon with blue eyes. Kelvin is surprised to see a dragon. Munchan attacks Kelvin with Flame Breath, which is a lot of fire. Kelvin worries for a while but keeps his consciousness, and quickly uses Sonic Acceleration to dodge the attack. Sonic Acceleration helped him to run faster than usual. Everyone becomes very surprised to see that this sort of spell exists. Toya asks Kelvin if it is an agility-enhancing spell, to which Kelvin agrees. As he reaches behind Miyabi Kuromiya, he smirks and tells Miyabi that her skill is Kelvin's now. Miyabi gets afraid to listen to Kelvin's voice coming from behind her. She tries to move away, but Kelvin does not give her the chance and touches her on the back. The touch helps Kelvin to absorb all of Miyabi's powers in himself. Jared starts explaining the equipment's abilities, that Skill Eater is made of Victor's carapace. Sarah feels proud as she further explains that by wearing that glove, Kelvin only has to touch someone and all their powers will be Kelvin's. But by wearing one glove in a hand, the wearer can copy 2 skills at most. However, copying a new skill can cause the previous skill to be overwritten. After the use of Skill Eater, Miyabi feels really weak and falls to the ground. Kelvin informs Miyabi that he is borrowing her parallel processing skill. Sarah starts complaining that even a unique skill can be copied. This is cheating. Jared agrees with Sarah and asks her if his master Kelvin has also copied a skill from Sarah, and what is the skill, to which Sarah confidently replies that if Kelvin uses it in the fight later, then Jared can easily guess it himself. And for that, he has to wait. On the other hand, Toya is very angry with Kelvin because he hurt Toya's team member. He runs towards Kelvin to attack him as he orders him to get away from Miyabi. But Kelvin, being the smartest, jumps and successfully dodges the attack. While Toya is distracting Kelvin, Nana is trying to heal Miyabi with Bright Heal. After some time, Miyabi gets her consciousness back. She opens her eyes and informs Setsuna and Nana that she has been defiled. Toya is also listening to their conversation and he gets really angry. He asks Kelvin what he did to Miyabi, to which Kelvin innocently says that he has not done anything to Miyabi. Toya orders Nana to keep healing Miyabi. He then orders Setsuna to protect both of them while he fights with Kelvin. He then starts attacking Kelvin with his sword, non-stop. Kelvin teases Toya that he is attacking him directly without identifying the strength of his opponent, and his chances of victory are getting less. He was just saying all this when Toya hit him and threw his sword away. Toya feels proud as he claims that he is a better swordsman than Kelvin. Kelvin starts smiling and replies confidently that it is the best his poor sword mastery can do. Toya then comes again to attack Kelvin, so he cannot use any more spells. Kelvin smiles confidently and instantly punches the sword in order to stop the attack and succeeds. The intensity of the punch is so high that it not only stops the sword but also pushes behind Toya a little. Toya attacks again on Kelvin, and this time Kelvin again stops the attack with a punch. Kelvin then activates his skill eater and starts punching Toya, one after another, leaving everyone in great shock because Kelvin is only fighting with his hands without any effort, and Toya is unable to do anything when Toya possesses rank S sword mastery. At the same point, Kelvin keeps punching Toya excitedly. Seeing that, Jared asks Sarah if this is the skill Kelvin borrowed from Sarah, to which Sarah agrees, saying that this is her rank S unarmed combat skill. Toya tries his best to handle Kelvin's punches, but it is getting difficult for him. Setsuna notices that and runs toward Toya to help him because it is getting very difficult for Toya to handle Kelvin alone. Kelvin notices that Setsuna is coming toward him, so he uses his Adamantite Rampart skill. Adamantite Rampart skill helps him stop Setsuna from coming forward by blocking her way with a huge wall of stones. Sarah tells Gerard and Ephale about the skill that Kelvin just used on Setsuna and her personal experiences with it. The skill is the ultimate version of Earth Rampart skill. When she faced it in the past, she had to use her full potential to clear this, so it is almost impossible for these heroes to break the wall. But Setsuna, being the smartest person in her group, uses her iron-cutting authority skill, jumps as high as she can holding her sword, and cuts the wall made of stones in one strike. Soon, the wall vanishes. Sarah, Ephale, and Jared remain shocked at how easily Setsuna manages to deal with this ultimate skill. Jared uses his instincts as he informs Sarah and Ephale that maybe that is Setsuna's unique skill, which can cut anything of any level or toughness. As soon as Setsuna cuts the wall, she sees that Kelvin is coming to attack her again. She starts panicking. As Kelvin gets closer, he attacks Setsuna with his sword. It is a flashing strike, but hopefully, Toya comes in between and takes the attack on himself. Nana and Miyabi run toward Toya to find out if he is okay. Toya, being the bravest hero of his group, gets up from the ground. The heroes' team sees that Toya is bleeding badly. Nana offers her bright heal, but Toya denies, saying that it is nothing, he has to defeat Demon Lord in the future. The duty of saving this world and bringing peace to it rests on Toya's shoulders. As Toya tries to complete his sentence, he gets interrupted by Setsuna, and he receives a slap from her. She advises Toya to cherish himself too by calling him a justice-obsessed fool. Then she starts crying and remembers the day when they all came to this world and became heroes. She explains the story as they were in their classroom, chatting with each other when they saw a magic blue circle appearing on the floor, and then a goddess appeared in their dream, and when they woke up, they found themselves in another world, inside the Grand Cathedral of Daramis. In front of them was standing a priestess of the cathedral, named Colette Daramilius, who summoned them there. She further expresses her worries as she was really frightened when she first got there, but tried to keep calm because her three best friends, Toya, Nana, and Miyabi, were with her. But Toya never took them seriously. Nana adds that Setsuna is right. Toya always wants to take everything in his hands, and she hates this. Miyabi tries to make him understand that if they can't work together as they have practiced, they can't be able to defeat anyone because they can't reach their full potential. Setsuna explains to him that everyone knows Toya is a strong, righteous, and amazing man, and he wants to defeat the Demon Lord, but he can't be able to do it if he can't take help from his teammates. Toya, realizing his mistake, apologizes to everyone and warns Kelvin that all four of them will defeat him. Kelvin was patiently standing at a distance, waiting for the heroes to finish their emotional talk. Listening to Toya, Kelvin takes a sigh of relief as he thanks Toya for finally finishing their small meeting. He was just talking when he noticed a dot of light near him. He gets afraid when he realizes what it is, and before he can do anything, a ray of light emits from that dot and tries to blind him. That is the spirit of light which is sent by Toya to make Kelvin blind. Kelvin is very impressed by Toya's smartness. After the spirit of light, Nana uses Frostbound and freezes Kelvin's foot, and then immediately, Miyabi uses Felony Crush, and as a result, Kelvin starts freezing. It is just like the air pressure is pressing him to the ground. Setsuna and Toya see the chance to attack and run toward Kelvin. At that time, Kelvin is unable to use his power, but he can still use the spells. So, he uses Clef Detonation and blasts himself. This blast is so impactful that it hurts the heroes badly. Thankfully, Toya uses his Spirit of Light to make a barrier and saves himself, and Setsuna uses her Skywalk skill to get a speed bonus to save herself. But she gets seriously hurt. There is smoke everywhere due to the blast, and nothing is visible. Heroes think that Kelvin cannot survive this impactful blast, but as the smoke starts to disappear, they see Kelvin using Blind Cure. After such a powerful blast, he does not even get a scratch. This makes the heroes worried. Actually, Kelvin used white magic to regain his eyesight. After regaining his eyesight, Kelvin starts clapping and praises their combo shot. He further adds that the heroes almost got him, but thanks to his sharp mind. The heroes are shocked because after the explosion, he does not even get a scratch and forcibly breaks the frost bound by detonating the ground. Kelvin explains how he can lose the game due to his spell, which was just a basic magic control trick. He further points towards Miyabi and Nana and tells them that there is still some room for improvement. He then points towards Setsuna, calling her the Ponytail Girl, praises her as her Skywalk skills are impressive because it is very straightforward, and advises her to use them more often. Then he turns towards Toya and asks him when he will use his dual-wield skill. Listening to Kelvin makes Toya realize that Kelvin has used Analyze Eye on him. Toya then agrees to do as Kelvin says, and if Kelvin wants Toya to use it, then he will now. Toya is very impressed by Kelvin as he has never seen an extremely strong bandit even in his wildest dreams. Toya then lifts his sword into the sky and asks Holy Sword Will to reveal its true form. With a bolt of lightning, his sword becomes 2x more powerful than before. All this scene makes Kelvin excitedly happy because Kelvin wants the heroes to fight with their full strength. Seeing Toya making the decision alone once again makes the remaining heroes angry, but Setsuna is determined this time. She says that she will go to help Toya no matter what. Nana, seeing Setsuna's determination, also decides to join her and go after Toya. So she uses Frozen Temple, which is her most powerful move. Frozen Spell makes the enemy completely rendered and immobile within the area of effect, and makes the one unable to even buff spells. Kelvin is completely rendered in snow, unable to move. He tries to move and finds out that he can still move a little bit, but it is not a situation in which he can attack. The fact that he cannot even use buff spells makes the situation worse for Kelvin. At the same point, Miyabi also decides to give in her part and use Grave Death Ogre. Grave Death Ogre is a giant black monster that appears from the ground. Seeing this situation, Sarah makes fun of Kelvin as she asks him if he needs her help now or not, to which Kelvin advises her to not interfere as this is not a funny joke. Kelvin becomes excitedly happy by seeing that monster because he fought him before. The monster takes Miyabi in his hand and lifts her. Then Miyabi uses Gloom Lance to attack Kelvin. Kelvin gets more excited and claims that now this game is getting more interesting. He uses Adamantite Guardian and some golems appear from the ground to stop the attack. The golems successfully stop the attack and save Kelvin. Kelvin orders these golems to buy him 30 seconds. He then focuses as he thinks that this frozen temple that robs his mobility is troublesome. He is not sure if the trick he is going to use will work or not, but he has to do it. He closes his eyes and starts repeating the words concentrate, breathe, focus again and again. With the spells, some little blue circles start forming around him. Sarah, Ephale, Gerard, and Miyabi understand that Kelvin is trying to create a new spell, and that is why he copied parallel processing from Miyabi. Miyabi informs Nana to stop him as he is creating a new spell. Nana further informs Setsuna that Kelvin is trying to create a new spell to stop him. Setsuna tries to attack Kelvin, but his golems come in between. Meanwhile, Kelvin then thinks that he is now constructing a new spell, and creating a new spell normally takes a lot of time because it contains several steps like coming up with a concrete image and devising the magical formula necessary for activation. Still, with parallel processing, all the processes needed can be sped up, and that is how Kelvin's process gets completed. Then Kelvin uses his new spell, which is Radiance Crossfire, and destroys all the frozen temples. Nana shockingly asks Kelvin how he came to know the weakness of the frozen temple, to which Kelvin replies that he can see anything through his analyze eye. Setsuna then comes to attack Kelvin using her Skywalker trick, to which Kelvin replies that she is a really good fighter in her group but he is better than her. He punches her in the stomach and defeats her. Then Miyabi comes to attack, but Kelvin dodges her attack as well and defeats her. Then comes Nana, but Kelvin catches her and her dragon in such a trap that can grab rank S demons as well. Then he uses Hyper Impact and throws Nana away. Taoya catches Nana and angrily runs towards Kelvin and attacks him. Taoya asks Kelvin why don't use his powers to help people, to which Kelvin throws Toya away. Kelvin says that everyone has their own belief and Toya can't force his ideas on him. Then Taoya says sorry to everyone and faints. After some time, Taoya wakes up and sees that other heroes are sitting with him. Then he sees a similar young girl sitting with Kelvin. He warns Kelvin to leave the little kid. Taoya then sees the slime, which is the pet of the adventurer who saved everyone in the past. Kelvin tells him that it is his slime, Clotho. Toya quickly understands that Kelvin is not from the Black Wind, but an adventurer. Kelvin apologizes to the heroes for telling a lie. Taoya is disappointed and says that they could have resolved this misunderstanding by just talking. Toya quickly realizes that Kelvin is just testing and trying to upgrade their abilities. He quickly kneels and calls Kelvin master. Kelvin then orders the heroes to remove their clothes. This makes the heroes embarrassed and they try to cover themselves. Kelvin starts laughing, seeing them like this, as he was just joking. It is a bright, clear day with white clouds scattered in the sky, and the sun shines brightly on the streets of Torage City. Kelvin, Guild Master Mist, and her assistant are gathered around a horse cart in which some people are sitting, waiting for the cart owner as he prepares the cart to move. The people sitting in the cart seem very happy as they are returning to their homeland after a long time. These include the little girl Ruka and her mother, who was saved by Kelvin. Ruka calls Kelvin her elder brother because he saved her life. They both thank Kelvin for saving their life and then promise to see him again soon. As they finish their thanks, the cart owner takes his place and points the horse to start moving. As the horse cart starts moving, Ruka and her mother wave happily to say their last goodbye to Kelvin, Guild Master Mist, and her assistant. Kelvin, the Guild Master, and the assistant also wave them back as they are happy and relieved that everyone is safely returning to their cities, and in no time the cart disappears. Well, it sounds like a kindergarten story. The Guild Master Mist takes a sigh of happiness and informs Kelvin that all the abductees are rescued, including Ruka the little girl, and her mother, and they will be sent home safely by the guild. She further informs Kelvin about the members of Black Wind, that they are working hand in hand with the Toragian authorities to confirm the members' identities, and they have also informed Torage about all the work that the Black Wind gang was performing in Torage. Kelvin thanks Guild Master Mist for helping him that much, to which Guild Master Mist tells him that she should be the one who should thank Kelvin, because he saves them from the dangerous gang, and she further asks Kelvin about his next plan. Kelvin replies that he is going to play a game in which he is going to have a lot of fun. After that, a large cave is seen with a large pond. The sounds of people fighting are coming from the cave. Then suddenly a large monster with octopus-like arms having purple color and yellow eyes appears from the pond. Yo, the heck. Your mama came out of the water, mad shit. It hits Toya with his arm and throws him far into the water. Toya's team members Setsuna Shiga, Nana Mizuoka, and Miyabi Kuromaya get afraid and ask Toya if he is okay. Then they all get to know that the arm that hit Toya belongs to a huge monster who is similar to an octopus. Setsuna runs towards the monster with her sword and attacks him, but the monster does not even get a scratch due to his soft and slippery skin. In the meantime, Toya comes out of the water to help Setsuna. On the other hand, Kelvin is in his swimsuit, sitting on the rock, and seems a little disappointed. He is training the heroes for the fight, while Sarah, also in her swimsuit, is fishing and watching the heroes fight. Ephale is getting everything done for lunch, and Clotho, Kelvin's pet, is jumping and enjoying his time in the cave. Back to the fight, Setsuna warns Toya that the monster named Octavigant is emitting electricity. While Toya and Setsuna are fighting with the monster, Nana and Miyabi stand back and look at the fight. Kelvin advises Nana and Miyabi that they both have to support Toya and Setsuna from afar, and for that, they have to rid the situation thoroughly. He further says that if Toya and Setsuna fail to defeat the monster on time, then they have to freeze the water so that Toya and Setsuna can walk on the water. He further advises them to take the help of the environment to cover the gap in strength. Then Miyabi sees the chest of Nana and says that they do have a lot of gaps in their strength. At the same time, the monster attacks and it hurts the heroes because they are not attentive. Kelvin gets disappointed to see that. Then Sarah comes to Kelvin and sits on the ground with the help of her knees. She asks Kelvin why he is training the heroes, to which Kelvin replies that he does not have any specific reason to train them, perhaps because Melfina chose them to become heroes and that is the reason why he is training them. But in his mind, he thinks that the heroes belong to the same world from which Kelvin belongs and that is the reason why he is training the heroes. Sarah confidently stands up and says that she knows that Kelvin is training the heroes so that they can fight with him again, to which Kelvin turns towards Sarah excitedly and says that she has a great idea and he will surely do it. Sarah advises him not to forget her this time as she also wants to fight. Kelvin and Sarah were just talking when they heard a weird sound. They turn towards the direction of the monster and find out that the heroes have defeated the monster. The monster is drowning in the water and Toya and Setsuna are still standing there, determined and focused, so that in case the monster wakes up and attacks once again, they should be prepared for that. But the monster drowns in the water completely, and they both take a sigh of relief. Toya shouts that they did it. Kelvin stands up and calls everyone for the lunch break. Meanwhile, Ifale also calls everyone to have a meal as she has prepared everything. The heroes look at the yummy lunch and get excited to eat it, stating that they are starving and thanking everyone for amazing food. After lunch, they all chit-chat with each other while Sarah starts explaining some punching moves to Toya and Setsuna. They both look at Sarah and her moves but don't get them, so they apologize formally to Sarah, stating that they don't understand what Sarah is trying to say. Kelvin was also seeing everything, and after Setsuna's response, he advises Sarah to only do fishing and he can train the heroes himself. Ifale offers more food to everyone. They talk about the arrival of the Demon Lord and that the dungeon bosses are becoming stronger because the arrival of the Demon Lord draws near. Toya adds his part as he remembers that Clot told them the same, to which Ifale asks Toya who is Clot. Toya tells her that Clot is the Oracle of Daramis who summoned the heroes in this world. He further says that he had great difficulty comprehending the situation at that time, but now he understands everything clearly. He tells his story about how he came to this world. He was chatting with Setsuna, Nana, and Miyabi in his classroom when he saw a big blue circle appearing on the ground. It was a magic circle beneath their feet, and after that everything went dark, and then the goddess showed up before them. They did not see the face of the goddess because she was shiny and white, like there was just a soul and no flesh. Nana adds her part as she says that when they woke up, they were already in the Grand Cathedral of Daramis. Kelvin, after listening to the story, comes to know that they came to this world with the help of teleportation. Kelvin warns Toya that even an octogigant poses a threat to his party now. He asks Toya a simple question related to his training session. What would he do if he ran into an enhanced rank S boss? Toya, in a disappointed voice, lowers her head and says that he and his party don't stand a chance against an enhanced rank S boss, so he would run. They were just talking when they heard Sarah's voice saying that she had got a big one. Actually, Sarah was fishing when she suddenly woke up the dungeon boss Evil Dragon, who is a ranked S monster. Kelvin asks Toya again if he is sure that he will run if he confronts a ranked S boss, because if you prefer to run, then you are endangering the lives of common folks that live nearby. Toya replies to Kelvin after a deep thought that he can't let his companions die for nothing and he will never engage in any hopeless battle ever again. He further says that people might condemn him for retreating, but he will still choose to train himself and come back with a plan, and when all the preparations are made, then he and his companions will go for it. Listening to Toya made his team members proud and they nodded to show their agreement. Kelvin is also impressed by Toya. He smirks and stands up from the ground, saying to Toya that he has passed his test and advises him to not ever forget that attitude. Then Kelvin turns and tells everyone that he is going for an after meal. Ifale requests to go with him. On the other hand, Sarah is fighting with the ranked S monster that woke up when she was fishing. She flies here and there and punches the monster, and in no time, she defeats the monster. After defeating the monster, they come out of the cave and Kelvin comes to know that it is time for the heroes to leave. They gather at the dock to say goodbye to the heroes. Kelvin asks Toya if their ship just got permission to depart, so why are they leaving so soon? Taoya informs Kelvin that they should have set out a few days ago, according to the schedule, and they don't want to impose on him any longer, to which Kelvin says that they are not imposing on them. He then takes out 4 pendants and gives them to the heroes as a parting gift. The pendants are of copper color with triangles on them and have a brown rope to wear. Taoya takes the gift and becomes really happy to see that. Kelvin informs them that he made these pendants by his own hands, so take it as their lucky charm. Taoya thanks Kelvin for the pendant and says that the next time they meet, they will be much more powerful. They join their hands and Kelvin says that he will be looking forward to that time, and then the heroes leave. On the ship, Taoya says that Kelvin and his companions are so powerful that they defeated the ranked S dungeon dragon like it was nothing. He wishes to be like them one day. On the other hand, Kelvin and his companions are standing at the seashore, looking at the ship when Gerard asks Kelvin what he is thinking. Kelvin says to Gerard that across the ocean there is the Western continent and there is the Rising Empire, which destroyed Alcohol, the home country of Gerard. He further asks Gerard that if they start a war with the Rising Empire at that time, will they win? Gerard is shocked that Kelvin remembers everything and says that he first thought that it would not be possible, but as he traveled with Kelvin and their party grew in size, they became strong and are now capable of fighting with a rank S boss. The dream that Gerard thought would be impossible is in reach now, and all thanks to Kelvin, Gerard's king. Kelvin interrupts him by saying not to rush things as they first have to defeat the powerful ones on this continent. Gerard confidently agrees and they both turn to go back and start walking. Ephale was listening to their conversation and said that her master, Kelvin, has a really good heart. She then tells Kelvin that she is talking about the pendants that he gave to the heroes, and she knows that these were the magical pendants providing minor stat buffs and a hidden effect. Kelvin is surprised and hopes that they never get to use the pendant. He was just talking when Sarah purposely bumped into Kelvin and pushed him away. She asks everyone what they are talking about, to which Kelvin asks Sarah what she is trying to do by bumping into him. She tells Kelvin that Guild Master Miss sent a girl to look for him, and it seems that someone wants to meet Kelvin. Listening to Sarah, Kelvin becomes very excited because the time has come for which he was waiting patiently. Everyone is confused by Kelvin's behavior. He tries to remind everyone why they came to Torridge, but no one remembers and Sarah keeps giving wrong answers like for the seep or fishing. Kelvin gets more and more angry with each wrong guess, and finally, he reveals the reason is rice. He shouts that they came to Torridge just to eat rice, and as everyone knows they defeated the Black Wing Gang and a ranked S boss, so they would be summoned by the ruler of Torridge. Then everyone starts walking to the ruler's castle. They stand at the front of the castle when Kelvin notices that the design of the castle is similar to the design of the Japanese castle. Gerard informs him that according to the legends, the first king of the castle was also from the other world and he built his castle the same as the Japanese castle. Following this, everyone entered the castle. As soon as the door opens, Kelvin quickly recognizes Tatami. He removes his shoes and enters while his companions look surprised but follow Kelvin's lead. They all removed their shoes and entered the hall. Then they bow towards the curtain and suddenly they hear a voice praising Kelvin for knowing about Tatami. Kelvin and his companions get shocked and then the curtain disappears. Behind the curtain is an elegant lady reclining on a plush sofa adorned with intricate designs, wearing a luxury dress. She introduces herself as Tsubaki Fujiwara, the current queen of Torridge. Kelvin is surprised to know that her surname is Japanese and she is the first lady who uses her Japanese surname. Queen thanks Kelvin for defeating the Black Wing Gang and a ranked S boss, then says that he deserves a huge celebration for his achievement, which usually happens in normal circumstances, but this involves Tyson, so they can't share Kelvin's achievements with the public. That is why if he wants anything as a present, he can ask and the queen will surely give it to him and his companions. Kelvin says that he has heard that Torridge is very famous for its luxury rice crops and only the citizens can buy and eat the rice. He demands from the queen that he wants her permission so that he can buy rice. The queen says that Kelvin can get anything from her queen like money, fame, conflict, and more, but he only wants rice, to which Kelvin says that he and his companions enjoy their freedom as adventure, but if the queen insists so much, then fill their stomach with some delicious food. The queen starts laughing after hearing Kelvin's wish, calls him a curious man, and says to forget about the permit as she can give him as much rice as he wants and for free, and if the rice finishes, He can directly communicate with the queen and she will arrange more rice for him. Then the queen claps to order her slaves to arrange dinner for the guests. After some time, dinner arrives, and to Kelvin's delight, it mainly consists of rice. Kelvin's excitement is palpable after seeing the dinner and starts eating it. As he takes the first bite of rice, he becomes happier and starts shouting that the rice is so delicious. He considers himself fortunate. The group savors the Japanese cuisine, while Gerard seems to enjoy Japanese wine very much, and Ifeal is busy taking notes on the recipes of the Japanese dishes from the royal cooks, eager to learn and apply it herself. The atmosphere is filled with the joy of good food and companions. Several days later, Kelvin and his companions are still staying at the castle of Toraj because the queen of Toraj, Tsubaki Fujiwara, insists they stay. Kelvin is sitting in his room and reading a book when Ifeal knocks on the door and tells him that the lunch is ready, so Kelvin asked her to bring the lunch to his room. He then asked about Sarah and Gerard. Ifeal tells him that Sarah is fishing while Gerard is practicing martial arts. He then starts eating his lunch, which is made of rice and seaweed. As soon as he takes the first bite, he loves the Japanese dish and praises Ifeal. She explains that the queen sent her royal chefs to teach her, so she has mastered many Japanese rice dishes. During lunchtime, the queen comes to join Kelvin. She starts eating and praises Ifeal's cooking skills. Kelvin asks her why she always comes to his room to eat, to which the queen replies that she mentioned that she likes Ifeal's cooking and her skills are better than the royal chefs of Toraj. Kelvin understands the reason. It is because Ifeal has rank S cooking skills. The queen then sits beside Kelvin and tells him that he can stay with Ifeal forever in Toraj. Then the queen comes closer to Kelvin and rests her head on his shoulder. Kelvin gets embarrassed and notices that Ifeal is also sitting in the same room. He quickly moves away from the queen and bows an apology for declining her offer. The queen accepts his apology and tells him that her offer is still up, and if any time he changes his mind, he can come back. The time to return has arrived. The queen gathers everyone in a hall where a massive teleportation gate is placed. She tells everyone that it is a teleportation gate. Sarah quickly remembers the gate as she has the same in her homeland. A question arises in smart Ifeal's mind. Why do the heroes not use the gate? The queen replies to her that it is not easy to activate the door as it requires a lot of mana and the authorization of the gatekeepers on both sides of the gates. Kelvin says that they have not taken any authorization from the gatekeepers of the Parth. The queen informs him that their authority is on their guild cards, signed by Guild Master Rio. Sarah and Ifeal come to know that the symbol of the wing engraved on their guild cards is the authorization from the gatekeepers of the Parth's gate. Kelvin gets annoyed and thinks that the cunning old fox did not tell him about it. Then they all move toward the teleportation gate, and in no time, they reach Parth. The next morning, Kelvin is sitting in his inn and waiting for his breakfast. The inn's owner, Claire, serves him breakfast when she asks him that she heard the Queen of Toraj is quite fond of him. He gets shocked and asks Claire that from where she heard it. She tells him that Angie Chan is telling everyone she meets about the Queen's fondness. Kelvin clears the rumors by saying that he has no intention to serve Toraj, as he wants to remain an adventurer and enjoy its freedom. Claire says that she has full trust in Kelvin and that wherever he goes, he can do fine. Ifeal then brings a cup of tea for Kelvin and he thanks her. Ifeal kindly asks Kelvin about her schedule, to which he says that today is off for her as they just came back from Toraj. He further tells her about his whereabouts and says that he will go shopping later in the day. Claire is also listening to their conversation and teases him about whether he is going to buy guns and bullets or he is going to bring another lovely slave. Kelvin gets irritated and he clears Claire that he is going to buy a new house. Kelvin then leads everyone to his new home, a massive chateau-like house that grabs attention. Its facade, with a warm skin tone, features numerous windows that capture light, giving the structure an appealing glow. The bright blue roof stands out against the earthy tones of the walls. Ascending the stairway to the entryway, one is struck by the estate's magnificence. The huge garden surrounding the house is breathtaking. A peaceful pond, filled with water lilies, reflects the blue sky above. A lovely bridge spans the pond, creating a picturesque passage. The garden is a design wonder, with perfectly maintained flower beds and rich vegetation that contribute to the estate's beauty and peace. Then they all enter the house. Sarah excitedly gets in and runs to get the best bedroom. Kelvin tells everyone that the house has many bedrooms as they all can choose their favorite one. Ifeil shyly tells him that her wish is to get a room beside Kelvin's. Kelvin agrees to her request, and she runs awkwardly towards the kitchen. Jared also moves towards the basement to exercise. Clotho comes to Kelvin and innocently demands a room for him as well. Kelvin tells him that the whole garden is Clotho's from now on. Clotho gets very excited and runs towards the garden. Suddenly, two ladies enter the house. They are the same ladies whom Kelvin saved from the Black Wind Gang, and from now on both the ladies are going to work in the house as servants. At night, Kelvin is in his bedroom trying to sleep but fails. Suddenly, he feels Melfina's presence near him. He quickly gets up from the bed and says to Melfina that she took long enough to come back. Melfina apologizes for the delay and tells him the reason why it took so long for her to come back is because adjusting to the artificial body took longer than she expected. Kelvin asks her if this means he can summon her, to which Melfina replies that he can summon her now and she is completely ready to win his heart. Kelvin tells her he misses this conversation so much and lifts his hand to create a blue hole in the roof. Then a beautiful lady comes down from the blue hole. The beautiful lady is Melfina. She has huge white wings, wearing a tremendous long white dress with golden borders, and has blue hair and emerald eyes. Kelvin's mouth opens wide after seeing Melfina. Kelvin feels shy as he tells Melfina that she is exactly his type. It is a pretty morning with sun shining brightly on the villa. Kelvin just finished his meal, putting down the knife and fork which was made by Alif. Little crumbs of the meal are still left on the plate, but the majority of the portion is done. Kelvin is actually happy to finally eat and taste the food made by Alif. He has had a desire to taste it for a long time now, and finally had it. Not the thing I wanted to see him eat, but okay. Melfina is also wiping her mouth after finishing the meal too, and is praising the food made by Alif. She is sitting on the red wooden chair. Melfina thinks it is amazing, exactly as she imagined it to be. She says well done to Alif. Kelvin, Gerard, Sarah, and Melfina all are seated in the dining hall on the dining table. All have already finished their meal. Alif is standing right beside Kelvin, wearing an apron and a purple dress. There are two other maids available on the point too. Kelvin and Sarah are enjoying their tea. Melfina is talking to Kelvin. She says she felt like a fool when she comes to know that Kelvin no longer lives in the inn and has moved to such a magnificent mansion. She is dumbfounded, and it took her quite a time and effort to find this place. She has a little shimmer on her face. Kelvin starts to laugh while he is taking tea. He replies back that she should have just asked any of them through their follower network and have avoided this issue. Melfina gets a little attentive and, with her hand on her chest, says that it would have ruined this heartwarming and touching reunion. She wanted this to be special and did not want to ruin the moment. She wanted to surprise Kelvin. She starts smiling. Kelvin replies back in a sarcastic way that it felt scary rather than a surprise. Jared interrupts in between and takes away the attention of Kelvin towards himself by saying, "My king." Jared asks who this pretty lady is, referring to Melfina, as he has never seen her before and had no idea who she was by the looks of it. Sarah also joins in. She has also never seen her around Kelvin before. She says to Melfina that she has not seen her face until now, and with a smirky smile asks Melfina, "Who are you?" Kelvin starts introducing her in an awkward way. He seemed a little hesitant. Melfina gets up from her chair and apologizes to all of them as she has not introduced herself to any of them. She is sorry for her belated greetings. Everyone is looking at Melfina. She is looking very pretty. She goes ahead saying that she has finally met all of them and it is really nice to meet all of them in person. She tells them her name is Melfina and she is also a follower. She tells them that she is a fellow follower who was summoned yesterday. Jared gets surprised and says in a breaking tone, "Princess." Melfina pulls up her skirt a little and in a very humble way with her head down says that yes, that would be her. Jared goes on. He says that he recognizes this voice as he has heard it before. Sarah gets intrigued too. She, with big red eyes and cute smile, says she is Melfina, like she also wanted to see her. Melfina expressions change a bit. She is now a little ashamed and sad as she mentions Demon Lord Gustav and says that he might not like her after what has happened in that particular scenario. Sarah says don't worry about that. Sarah says that her father ran amok and took all the blame on him. She goes saying that it was not him who summoned the heroes then, so there is nothing to worry about. She says everything is okay between them with a smile and wink from her side. Melfina is surprised and relieved too. She did not expect this, and just says thanks with a sigh of relief. Kelvin is smiling and he seems happy seeing such an interaction between his followers. Jared speaks up that it turns out differently than what he is expecting. He was thinking that she is a new concubine. Kelvin gets awkward and bluntly and loudly says, "Where is that coming from? There is nothing like that." Kelvin is shouting. Melfina joins in and says that she is the first wife and there is nothing like that. Kelvin is awkwardly furious. Sarah gets up and says that it is gross to Jared. An awkward situation for Jared appears. Meanwhile, Alif takes out a handkerchief and cleans the face of Kelvin as he has finished his tea completely. Jared is still confused and asked about what Melfina is saying. Kelvin gets nervous and tells that she is just making things up to have fun. Melfina can be seen enjoying all of it. She is blushing and laughing with her hand on her mouth. Melfina can be seen devouring an unlimited dessert. She has her mouth and plate full with the stuff. She is in the moment of her own. Kelvin is talking to Melfina now. All of them are sitting on the couch. Alif is standing on the side. Kelvin asks Melfina if calling her by name would cause some problems for her as she has a lot of believers in Daramis. She agrees with Kelvin too and says yes, it is a good and valid point. She asks him to call her Mel instead of Melfina from now on. Alif joins in and says Mel Sama. She tells Mel that she is gonna let Eily and Rook know about it too so they won't call her Melfina too in case. Melfina appreciates her gesture. She turns back to Kelvin and says that she has a gift for Kelvin because he summoned her. Kelvin gets curious and asks back a gift. She replies back by calling him Master. She says that he has done a good job. She draws a little red flower in the air with her index finger and pushes it towards Kelvin. She accepts the blessing of Melfina as the red flower gets attached to the front of Kelvin's body and disappears. Kelvin is still a little surprised. He asked her what kind of blessings it is. Is it like the Alif's blessing of Flame Dragon King and the hero's blessings of spirits? Kelvin is curious. Alif seems happy seeing all of it happening. Melfina answers by saying the ones she gave him are the blessings of the goddess of reincarnation and has two effects. Kelvin is listening carefully and repeats after her to tell what those are. Melfina explains her point. The first one allows a person to be completely immune to someone's fatal strike once a month. Kelvin gets excited after listening to the first point and replies excitedly that it is insane. Melfina goes and says yes, it is indeed. It can protect one from any accidents and unpredictable attacks of an opponent. She seems so excited and happy telling Kelvin all of it. Sarah chants it is awesome to Kelvin. She seems happy for herself and says that she can now go all out and attack Kelvin on their next practice match. Kelvin gets scared of Sarah's thoughts and blabbers something. Melfina goes ahead and points out the second effect. She says that this one is also amazing if he asks her opinion. Well, a girl's opinion is mostly useless, but still. Kelvin gets a glow and gives a smile of admiration by hearing that. Things get mysterious. Melfina says that it is the ability to summon heroes. The air around the room gets mystical. There is silence. Kelvin gets confused. He could not believe what he had just heard, and his first response was what the hell she meant, and the only thing to get out of his mouth was eh. That's it. Now Sarah and Melfina are having a one-on-one. Sarah is going all out and throws a deadly punch, but misses. She gets frustrated. Melfina is in her own avatar. She takes it and flies away. She gets serious too. She attacks back with the frozen Badger Briar, an attack which is a mixture of snow and flowers. Melfina says that Sarah should have stayed still. Sarah dodges it. She is enjoying it. She gets back. Both are throwing things at each other. On the sidelines, Jared has Ruko in her lap, and they are watching two of them having a match. Ruko seems to be enjoying it. She says that it is beautiful, but it is also freezing here. Jared seems careful of Roku and gives her something to cover so she does not catch a cold. Kelvin is in his own thoughts at the moment. He is standing upstairs. He is in a zone of his own. He is worried about his fellows. He is wondering if they have reached the Western continent. He looks above and has flashbacks of his last goodbye with them as they were departing for their journey. He smiles thinking about it and says the heroes like he was admiring them. On the other hand, the match is getting serious. Sarah is going to launch her attack. Jared gets surprised seeing it and says that it is Victor's skill that Sarah is using. Sarah lashes towards Melfina. Melfina is also ready. She has an equal response to it. She uses a divine dress and her wings appear. The right hand of Sarah and sword of Melfina strikes together one-on-one. The waves and energy residuals are generated from their attacks landing directly with each other. Sarah's attack actually wins in this. Melfina's weapon disappears, and she gets a cut on her left cheek. There is blood, and she gets surprised. She has not seen it coming. Sarah smiles and says that she is the victor in this and has won. Melfina instantly gives a smirky smile, and Sarah's Jin scrimmage disappears too. Sarah is shocked and is looking at her right hand. She can't understand what happened at the moment. Kelvin can be seen sitting on the wooden fence of the balcony. He is staring at the sky and asking himself, what are the heroes in first place? He is questioning something deep in his mind. He says that if it only means to defeat demon lords, can it be done by someone else too? Like a rank S adventurer or the Beastmaster of Gon, who is known to be the best fighter across the eastern continent. He scratches his head in confusion. Sarah and Melfina are still battling it out. Melfina just received a blow from Sarah in her abdomen. It was painful. She gets on her knees. At that moment she notices Sarah too. Sarah is all blown up and beat her too. She is taking big breaths but is on her feet. Melfina admires her and says that she has made such considerable progress in this time period. Sarah replies back that she is not bad either. Ruko claps seeing it. Jared says it is a good fight. He goes on saying those two were throwing everything at each other and they had good all out with each other. He is intrigued. He asks if there is some particular reason for her battling it out like this. Sarah replies to Jared that they were fighting for the right to sleep with Kelvin as she takes the hand of Melfina and helps her standing up. This battle was just to decide who gets to sleep with Kelvin. Jared gets shocked by hearing the right to sleep with him. Ruko seems naive. She says that it must be nice and she wants to sleep by Master's side too. Jared says to Ruko that she is still too young for that by putting a hand on head. Sarah and Melfina are now taking a steam bath in the sauna. They both are naked with their pretty bodies glittering. The view is beautiful from our screens. They are relaxed. Sarah feels alive again by taking the bath. She says it is the best thing. She has her horns and wings out too. Melfina is also living it. She says that it feels like their soul gets cleansed. It is such a good feeling. The lift opens the door and asks if they are still hurting anywhere after such an intense one-on-one with each other. Sarah replies back that they are not hurting at all because Kelvin gave both of them a thorough healing. They are all good, but Melfina complains about it. She says that although he was doing it, he seemed a bit off. He was absent-minded while doing so. She is worried about him. Sarah is surprised that she did not notice that. She asked her if he was actually somewhere else. The lift, still standing at the door, says maybe the master is still thinking about what Mel-sama told him on the couch. Both of them get thoughtful about it. Melfina replies that summoning of the heroes thing. Sarah looks at both of them talking about it. The lift replies back with a yes. She says that he was summoned here from the other world as well, so Kelvin must have some concerns that are beyond our understanding. Melfina closes her eyes and thinks about something. It is a big mansion with a lot of greenery and a big pond with a pathway at the center of it. Kelvin is still standing at the balcony looking out. Suddenly there is a voice of Master from behind. It is Melfina, and she puts something in his mouth instantly. Kelvin gets shocked as he chews it. Melfina enjoys this and smiles in a cute naughty way. She has a plate in her hand. Kelvin still seems upset about something. He has a poker face while he is eating it. Melfina replies that it is just chocolate and no need to worry about it. There are more pieces of chocolate on the plate. Kelvin lashes out at her and says that does not just stuff it in his mouth like that. Melfina wanted his attention. She replies that she believes that he has some questions for her and she is here for it. Kelvin scratches his head and says that she saw through him. Melfina jokingly replies and says she is his first wife after all. Kelvin puts forward his concern. He says that he is just wondering why the heroes are necessary. Melfina smiles at that question and says that before giving the answer to that she needs to give him some necessary thorough explanation about the Demon Lord. Kelvin gets confused. He asked about the Demon Lord. Melfina replies, of course, Gustav was the one, but notes that the cyclical appearance of the demon lord is an inherent and natural phenomenon in the world. They sit in the spot in the pond as they discuss it. Mel goes, saying that she also has no idea in what way the next demon lord will arise. But without exceptions, all demon lords in history have a special power or skill named Mera Pisuna. Melfina has worried expressions on her face while saying it. She says it also has two effects. The first one is that it can draw out and amplify the malice in the heart of the owner, and it will be that harsh, and will alter their personality to a very large extent. Second one is that it nullifies all the damage done to the owner. It will heal the owner. Kelvin is listening carefully to her and gets an instant shock after hearing the second point. Melfina says it is like that person is invincible 24/7. Kelvin just could not comprehend it. He asked how it is possible to defeat a person like that if he has that kind of power. He talks nervously. Melfina replies that this is the point where the power of the heroes from another world comes in, a foreign power that is not something common in this world. The power that possess can actually nullify the invincibility of the demon lord. That calms Kelvin, and he asks in a soft tone that if that is the case, my attacks would work on the demon lord as well. He is still down with the thought of the hero's existence and asks again if there is any point to the title of hero. Melfina replies that it is true that his power will work, but appearances are important as well. Kelvin goes on and talks about how his lack of memories actually made him adjust to this world, but he is worried about others that, unlike him, Toya and others were summoned in this world without their consent. It was against their will. They were forced to shoulder the burden of being heroes. He asked if it is really okay for him to do something in this regard. Melfina continues the conversation and says that if it really bothers him to summon someone from the other world, then he should try using the reincarnation summoning. She is enjoying the chocolate and talking at the same time. Kelvin asks about what reincarnation summoning is. Hearing him, Melfina explains that to summon there are two methods, transmigration and reincarnation. Kelvin asks for the difference between them. Melfina says that she is gonna put it simply. Transmigration is to summon the living person as he is, while reincarnation is to summon the soul of the someone who has died into a new body he has constructed for him. Kelvin finally understands it as he is thinking about it at the same time that Toya and others are transmigrated while he is reincarnated here. Reincarnation is easy to summon who has higher value status, and a person who gets summoned in this way also gets to choose his or her skills and bonuses as well. They can also change the appearance and the age of the new body too if they wish to do so. Kelvin gets cocky hearing and thinks that his appearance is also altered. Melfina calms her down by putting her hand on his face and says don't worry, he altered none of them. She explains that doing it costs a person skill points too. Kelvin sighs and says that he wouldn't have surely done it at the cost of his precious SP. Melfina asks him that the explanation of reincarnation summoning has relieved him of his concerns. Kelvin is still a little curious. He asks if he can choose which soul to summon. Melfina says that no, it is not possible. It is decided randomly. She adds that he does not need to rush his decisions. Take some time to think about it. She further adds that he only has one chance in it, and it is not going to disappear even if he does not use it. She gets up, and as she is leaving she says to take all the time he needs to think it through. Kelvin is relieved. He takes a sigh and instantly he notices that all the chocolates are gone. He wonders when she ate it all. Kelvin is now ready. He has made up his mind. Melfina is surprised that it is faster than what she expected. He still has some doubts, but is considering the support of his followers. To fulfill his promise with Gerard, he says he needs to get all the support and help he can get. He says he will be an unworthy man if he can't control a single hero. They are so proud and happy to see this side of Kelvin. Alif explains to Ruka and Ailey about the master's summoning and asks them to behave themselves. Kelvin says that we should let the one summoned to decide his or her own life. Melfina agrees. Kelvin goes ahead and unsummon, and Gerard, Sarah, and Melfina disappear. He drinks the mana potion. The summoning begins. He decides the level of SP and mana he wants to use on this. He decides to leave himself with only 1 MP and use the remaining to summon because he wants a stronger hero. Reincarnation begins. A hologram on the floor appears. The floor is shining with a green pattern. Kelvin is now seated and waiting for the hero to appear. He is impatient and thinks that it is taking longer than expected. He is worried about what's the matter. No change in appearance and age, just like Kelvin in the reincarnation. A lightning bolt strikes from the sky outside the villa. There is trembling and bright light. Light fades away. There is a female that has arrived. Looks very young, more like a child. And the pedo group arises with their tissues. Kelvin gets up and introduces himself. The summoned one introduces herself as Rian Saiki. Rian seems intrigued and excited. Kelvin apologizes to Rian for the summoning into this world. Rian starts crying and thanks Kelvin for bringing her into this world. He does not understand what's going on. Rian gets phased and she gets down on the floor. Kelvin wonders if she is really a hero. Melfina assures him that she is definitely the best, just wait. Kelvin feels weakened too as he has used all his mana for the summoning. He fades too. Alif is called Master. Rian wakes up after the summoning. She is having flashbacks of her days in a hospital in another world. She walks out of the door and starts running on the lawn. She lays on the grass and stares at the sky. Kelvin arrives there. He tells her about his coming into this world too. Rian gets surprised by knowing Kelvin was reincarnated too. He tells him that he is given a second chance and he has been killed by a god. He tells her how he met people and his curiosity took him where he is at the moment. He tells her that he has become the most powerful rank A adventurer after all these battles and development. It is wonderful. Rian tells him the story of her sickness and how she used to spend all the time reading novels and staring outside of the window. She thanks him to bring into this world and letting her join his party. She wishes to repay him for this. He asks her to introduce herself to the world as Kelvin's half-sister. She is happy to call him Brother Kel. He asked her to change her name because it reminded him of someone he does not like. She switches her name to Rian. Kelvin asked her to prepare for the busy days as tough times are coming. Kelvin wakes up in the early morning just before sunrise and he notices that Sarah is on his bed with him. He first mistaken her for Ephale, the half-elf, and wondered why she was on his bed. He guessed it would be something related to the bet they had at the dinner table, and as he shifted, he felt a soft hand over his neck and surprisingly found that Melfina was also in his bed behind him. As she was having a soft sleep, she talked about how full she was after having last night's dinner and wished to eat more and taste the sushi, which she heard about the most. The dream of every man is to be in bed with a bunch of rab-throughs. Man does not realize his luck. Kelvin smiled at Melfina's unconscious sleep talk and noticed that she moved around a lot in her sleep. Only then did he realize that her sister Rian was also in bed with them under the blankets. The incest-loving weebs must have loved to see that happen. He thought that it was common for a sister to sneak into her brother's bed. As he gently moved the hair from her face, he was happy to see her having a sound sleep despite worrying about her earlier. In a moment of self-realization, he thought about the situation he was in and realized that it would be so unreal in his previous life before his memories were erased. But being in his doubts, he still accepts the strange reality of this new world. He then gets out of bed and moves towards the room window. As he views the beautiful sunrise behind the forest and a series of mountains, he thinks that today is going to be a busy day. Later, we get taken to Sangria Forest, and all of Kelvin's companions are in it together. Rian thought that this dungeon was exactly how she imagined it as she ran around. Kelvin ordered her not to go far away, which is understood. Ailey, Ruka, and Melfina were sitting on a mat with clones of Clotho sitting on Ailey's and Ruka's shoulders and heads, respectively. Yay, more girls for us nerds to fantasize about. Ailey said to Kelvin that she understood why he had brought his sister Rian into the jungle and questioned why he brought Ailey and Ruka with them, to which he explained that despite being his servants, he thought it would be better if they leveled up as well. He explained that despite their mansion being continuously guarded by 2 golems, since their status is so low they won't be able to protect themselves if the defense has failed to protect them. Ruka, being a little girl, said that she had never fought any monsters before, to which he said that they don't have to worry about anything and instructed them to stay where they were as he planned to use his experience-sharing skill. He sure is a gentleman. He takes care of every woman. Melfina explained to both of them that the experience-sharing skill would allow Kelvin's EXP, which he had gained through defeating enemies, to be distributed among the other team members. Sarah, cutting in between, said that if they keep killing monsters, they will one day be able to fight with them as well. She then friendly challenged Gerard and Clotho to see who kills more of the monsters, and both agreed with excitement, but Kelvin ordered them not to make too much mess just as anidaily and Ruka leveled up and said to check their status. They were all really surprised to see their status being leveled up. Then Ifale sensed a monster shadow wolf approaching them and urgently alerted her master Kelvin. He instructed her not to shoot it and let it come, and he asked Rian if she liked dogs, to which she said yes because she had never even touched one. Then a terrifying shadow came towards them, and a figure of a feral, fully black, hairy wolf emerged from it, surrounded by a purple aura. Ailey and Ruka were frightened as they held on to one another while Kelvin fearlessly stood ready to confront the beast, which was not a big deal for him, and ordered Melfina to protect the others as Hez went to fight it. Oh, showing off, huh? As the wolf jumped forward, Kelvin used a powerful spell known as the air pressure from his staff, and a bright glow appeared from it. The spell quickly directed the surrounding air towards the opponent with such a high force that the wolf could not bear, so he used his analyze eye to see that its HP had started to decrease, and just as we know, Kelvin then used the spell to form a pact with it. Ailey, Ruka, Melfina, and Ryan were all really surprised and happy to see such a short victory for Kelvin, after which he then summoned his new companion, and the ferocious wolf now appeared to be quiet and calm, like a pet dog waving its tail. Moments later, Ifale stood on a branch of a tree and used her farsight skill to see a group of people approaching towards them. She alerted her master Kelvin of their upcoming presence, but they turned out to be Old and his companions. Kelvin wondered why this forest was having too many visitors today. As Old and his group approached the group, both parties were surprised to see each other, and both questioned why they were there. Kelvin sarcastically replied that they were having a little picnic, and Old said that his party was finally eligible for the Rank B promotion exam, for which they are required to kill a specific number of monsters. However, Old, out of curiosity, asked why there are only pretty ladies and girls, and if they are all his teammates. Any man would wonder that, just being honest? To which Kelvin replied while rubbing his head that yes, and shared that Ailey and Ruka are just two maids working in his mansion and not in his party, as both of them nodded their heads. Old's companion begins to get envious of Kelvin's party. Yup, anyone would be envious, because their group only consisted of men and no girls, and one member even commented that weren't Ifale and Sarah enough for his team. Their leader Old scolded them to snap out of it and advised them not to get attracted to such things so quickly. Kelvin said that he still hadn't introduced them to his two more members, to which Melfina and Rian greeted them as his acquaintances and as his sisters, respectively, making the companions of Old even more sad that he even got a cute little sister, and also because of Melfina's beauty. Old said to his companions that he understood their feelings, but they all replied in unity that someone with a wife would not understand how bachelors felt as they ran back towards the town, crying like babies while Old chased them, shouting, "Obviously, man, how would someone with a wife understand us virgins who barely has seen a woman except our sisters, making us incest-loving?" After a while, Sarah, Gerard, and Clotho were back. Sarah said that they saw Old's group and asked why they were there. Kelvin told them of their purpose, that they were there for their Rank B promotion exam, for which they needed to kill some monsters. Sarah, Gerard, and Clotho seemed to be quiet for a moment in their own thoughts. Kelvin asked them what they did, so Ifale used her farsight skill, only to realize that there were no monsters left in the forest. Kelvin was shocked to hear this, and Sarah, Gerard, and Clotho admitted that they exterminated them all. Later, moving towards the Adventure Guild, where Kelvin is embarrassed by what his team has done as he apologizes to Old for joining his hand in front of him. Old, being a good man, told him to raise his head and say that it was fine. He would explain it to Rio, who would surely understand. Old further said that his strength is really beyond their reach now, and for that he would have to take the Rank S promoting exam, which Kelvin and his team were surprised to hear. Who loves surprise exams more than the first benchers? Now the screen is shifted to Kelvin's mansion, where Ryan and Kelvin, along with Ifale, are giving a bath to Wolf, their newest member, who was covered with bubbles of soap. Meanwhile, Kelvin was in his thoughts, wondering about the upcoming Rank S promotion exam, thinking that it might have something to do with that old fox Rio suspecting him, who is probably planning to surprise him with the exam. Bro finds excuses like me. Ifale said that he was so special because of all the promotions he had received, and that it would be his first formal exam, and Rian also encouraged him that he could pass any exam with ease while she named the wolf Alex. Then Kelvin poured water onto Alex with the help of Clotho. Alex shook his body, and the water splashed on everyone, which Kelvin forbade him not to. Now they officially made Alex their new member by fitting a collarbone around his neck, and Kelvin suggested that Alex and Rian would make a great team together. Ifale commented that since Alex got a collarbone, it does not look like a wild monster anymore. Then Alex seemed to talk to Rian in his dog language, saying that it needs to eat, surprising everyone that they can understand each other pretty much. To which Rian explained that it is probably the effect of her friendliness skill. Soon after, Gerard arrived and said to Rian that it was time for her sword practice, and the screen transitioned to a glimpse of her training in the form of images, which included sword mastery with Gerard, fishing skills with Sarah, exercising along with her other teammates, eating meals happily at the Adventurer Guild, and finally going to see a sunset along with Alex on a cliff in a forest. At night, while only Melfina and Nefael are sleeping, everyone suddenly wakes up because they sense a suspicious group of people surrounding the mansion. Sarah uses her senses and detects that they are a total of 14 in number. Rian said that Sarah woke her and Alex up, otherwise, they wouldn't even know it. Sarah further said to Kelvin that she instructed Gerard to guard the room of Eily and Ruka. Then Kelvin borrowed the farsight skill of Ifale while she was sleeping and used it to see the group outside, and he was not surprised because most of them were not even up to their level 20 except one person who had level 26. As he was standing separately from the others, Kelvin thought that he might be their leader. Sarah questioned what his plan was and asked permission to take care of them on her own, but Kelvin smiled and asked Rian if she could battle them, along with Alex insisting that they were a perfect practice target. He said that he would cast the Silent Whisper spell on the outer walls, which would let the golems at the gate vacate their posts for a while, and then she could take care of any intruders that set their foot beyond the walls, and he ordered Clotho to give her a clone of him. Kelvin said that he would also upload any information he might get from the presence detection and the farsight skill to the followers network, and gave her a sword whose blade is named the Enhanced Mithril Sword, which he borrowed from a fellow named Cashel, and he reforged it with his crafting skill, suggesting that it might be suitable as her starter weapon, as he put his hand on her head. Then Ran and Alex put on their battle outfits as they prepared for their battle, while the group's leader outside the mansion instructed his comrades to eliminate the owner of this estate before he became a threat to Trison's great plan for world conquest, because he was involved with the collusion with the heroes of Daramis and the arrest of Christoph Sama as his men jumped out from behind the forest. Rian and Alex were already waiting for them at their doorstep, and Rian, in her thoughts, wished to be of some help to her teammates because the others were always helping her out for most of her life. She then went on to battle the opponent's group as Sarah and Kelvin watched from the room window, admiring her fighting skills and wondering that with continued training from Gerard she will surely become an expert in sword mastery one day, and that her coordination with Alex is also perfect. Ryan and Alex seemed to be fighting well and defeated the 14 men in no time with the help of Alex. Kelvin instructed Clotho to clean up the mess by giving them a minimal amount of healing before he handed it over to the Adventurer Guild, then went on to take the leader himself. The group leader felt that it was too late and whistled for his group to retreat. Unbeknownst to him, Kelvin was behind him as he captured him too. Later, the group turned out to be former teammates of Christoph, who sought revenge against Kelvin. Now the screen is shifted to a castle in the city of Trison, where a round-table conference is being held. Zel Trison, the Emperor of Trison, summoned this meeting. Oh, let me guess, the Council of Evil, the peak of mangas and animes. Asgrad Trison, the General of the Dragon Knight Order, questioned if they were here to talk about the Christoph situation, stating that it was his idea to take slaves from Torej and Tristan. Tristan Foz, General of the Chimera Legion, sarcastically remarked that Asgrad should not have put his faith in those adventurers who turned out to be savages. Dan Delba, General of the Steel Knight, scolded Tristan, saying that they have no interest in his self-satisfaction and that this incident has cast their nation in an extremely unpleasant light. He was concerned that Gon, Taraj, and Daramis, all the other nations, had begun to talk about forming an alliance and questioned how he was going to take responsibility for that. Tristan calmed Dan and threatened to shorten his lifespan sarcastically, but Princess Shutola intervened, calming both of them. Zell Tryson also agreed that General Dan's words are right and that their country is in a very delicate position. Although they have denied any connections with Christoph's crime, it still wouldn't satisfy the people, and he warned them that if one more wrong move is taken, they will also be dragged into war with their neighboring countries. Then Tristan boldly replied that they give them war, shocking others, and explained that they have been steadily strengthening their armies while the other three nations were busy enjoying the peace, and that these weaklings are no match to them even if they combine together. Boy Tristan seems to be cruel the most. He insisted that it was the perfect time to fulfill their old dream of unifying this land. Princess Shutola also agreed that it is one of the great goals, but corrected that it is not the perfect time because the other nations are not as weak as he assumed. Asgrad said that he was in support of the war because he had several tussles with Gon's troops and he was confident in the power he had acquired earlier. Princess Shutola said that she could not wait to see his power, so Tristan sarcastically said to General Dan that it was 2 for and 1 against. General Dan angrily punched the table and said that he was also against it, but it was not a perfect time, so that leaves their vote tied and leaves the remaining vote with General Clive, who was not at the Round Table Conference at the moment. Zell Tryson laughed evilly and said to let the vote of 5 generals decide the fate of their nation and ordered to summon Clive Terrace, who is the general of the Magical Knight Order. Then a knight was sent to summon General Clive, wondering why he had to come to such a place where all the standing knights guarding the palace were beautiful females only. He finds the headquarters of the Magical Knight Order to be creepy. He knocked on the door where General Clive had ordered him to come in because the door was not locked. As the knight enters the room, he is stopped by a smell from the room because it is filled with a cloud of purple smoke, and is surprised to see women lying around the room, mostly naked with just a piece of bed sheet covering them. General Clive wondered that this knight was not one of his, so he asked who he was as he was lying on his couch. The knight introduced himself as Lieutenant General Jin Delba of the Steel Knight Order at his service, and requested to come attend the Round Table Conference urgently. General Clive is not pleased to hear this but eventually agrees. He then stands up naked as the bedsheet falls from his body and questions the lieutenant if he is pretty. Kelvin and his whole team were traveling in a chariot carriage accompanied by Melfina, who was flying above them with the help of her angel-like purple wings. They all were traveling through the Forest of Crests on their way to the village of elves located on the southwestern part of Gon. Kelvin wondered to himself right now that they had traveled a lot of ways to reach this village of elves. The only thing that concerns us weebs is some of Lolita's wet Victoria's secrets. Ephale sitting beside him said that she felt strange about the place and felt nostalgic about it. Kelvin reminded her about her half-elf heritage and suggested that this could be due to her elvish blood. Kelvin is quite a genius, well, unexpected from men. Sarah was also surprised about the strangeness of this place because according to her studies, elves are a race that lives on the western continent and they are not supposed to be in the eastern continent. Melfina, flying above them, interrupted saying that elves immigrated from the western continent and set up their village in this forest about more than a year ago, and now they are in the protection of Gon Kingdom. During this trip, Kelvin remembers the recent events in his thoughts because last night his mansion was attacked by 14 assassins, but their attempt to take revenge was unsuccessful. After that, they were handed over to the Guild Master Leo of the Adventure Guild, probably for further interrogation. Guild Master Leo talked Kelvin about the current political situation, that the Tryson Kingdom had boldly denied any relations to the recent Black Wind illegal slave activities in order to pacify the situation, but they turned around and tried to attack you, and that there seemed to be a small and large activities happening around the borders of Tryson, that there were minor scuffles between Tryson and Gon, but there has not been any other obvious movement when dealing with places like Parth, which symbolizes peace, and Torej, that provides food. They are always more than careful. Kelvin acknowledged Tryson's reconnaissance and slave dealings. The Guild Master Leo said that due to all this internal politics at this rate, there might be a high chance that Tryson would launch an invasion according to his predictions, and warned Kelvin to be careful, because if their testimonies are true, then Kelvin might be targeted again. After that, Leo presented him with a special quest about his Rank S promotion exam and asked if he would like to accept. Kelvin jokingly asked if it was from the Guild Master himself, to which he said that it was issued directly from the Beast King Majesty Leonhardt of Gon himself, and that he might be there with him as well. I have a strong feeling, guys, he won't show up, just like your dad did not show up in most of your life accomplishments. The flashback comes to an end, and Gerard, in the chariot, questions why a king of the country himself would personally send a notice for a rank S promotion. Sarah guessed that one of the conditions to get promoted to the rank S promotion would be to obtain permission from the king, to which Kelvin agreed, and that it has to be from 2 countries, and recalled that when he resurrected Rio, a person who died young due to illness, later reincarnated as Rian in this new world, she was able to persuade Tsubaki-sama, the Queen of Taraj, so much that Kelvin got one of his permission from the Queen, and it seemed that she praised so much about him that such words even reached King Leonhardt's ears. Ephale wondered what kind of person Leonhardt would be, but Melfina said that Leonhardt set out on a journey to gain skills in combat when he was a teenager, and he even raised his adventurer's rank to rank S according to his country's customs. See, she knows everything about everyone because, of course, girls are great with gossip. Kelvin wondered how strong he might be and was asked by Gerard if he was not getting any ideas, to which Kelvin sarcastically replied that he was not thinking about fighting him or taking him down, something like that, but his teammates knew him very well. Rayan asked if King Leonhardt is that strong he could have completed this promotion exam by himself. Sarah was also suspicious about the sudden appearance of the rank S monster at the village of elves and their recruitment and protecting it. Kelvin answered that Trison is most likely behind all this. Ephale suggested that they should not be this careless, and Sarah jokingly said that they might get a surprise attack, and suddenly an arrow was shot in front of their chariot. As the team came out from the chariot, they saw they were surrounded by elves who were on the trees aiming their arrows at them. Kelvin quickly took out his rank S promotion exam letter, showing it to them that he was here by the order of Beast King, King Leonhardt himself, and identified himself as an adventurer and requested to listen to him. The elves on the tree stopped after hearing King Leonhardt's name. They probably would have shot him, right, if he had lost his promotion letter. Then they were greeted by Nellas, the elder of the village of elves, who apologized for his soldiers' actions. Kelvin's companion was shocked by Nellas's appearance and commented about how young he looked despite being an elder, but Sarah acknowledged it is because he is an elf. No idea why is everyone trying to be so smart here. Nellas seems to know about Kelvin's arrival because of King Leonhardt's influence, and he is also shocked by the appearance of Ephale, even calling her Rummel by mistake, surprising others and making them think as well. Then the intro song begins. Then the scene is shifted towards a wooden house guarded by elf soldiers with the beautiful chirping sound of birds in the elf village. Kelvin and his group were gathered around Nellas, seated in a circle for their meeting, where curious little elf girls were peeking from the door. Before they talked about the quests, Kelvin requested to ask something important. First, Nellas asked if he wanted to know why he called Ephale Rummel, and everyone replied yes. Kelvin said that Ephale might be her companion now, but she was inflicted with the curse of the Flame Dragon King and had been a slave ever since she could remember, and requested to know more about Rummel. He thought that it could give clues about Ephale's mysterious background. Nellas understands Kelvin's concern and tells them a story from 20 years ago. Time to grab some popcorn and some drinks. In the dense forest of the western continent, they had been living a peaceful life until one day, they were attacked by one of the great dragon kings. Oh, that sounds like this anime is a copy of Smaug from The Hobbit. The Flame Dragon King said to give him the elf who had humiliated him, or he will reduce their forest into ashes. Nellas said that up to that point they had never interacted with the Flame Dragon King before, and still had no answers as to why he had become so enraged that day, and that its anger was so terrible that more than half of the villagers were killed without even knowing what was going on, and his leg was also taken that day. He continued the story that during the attack an elf stood up to face the Flame Dragon King, and that was Rummel. She said to the dragon to take out all his anger on her. In exchange, she'd asked to leave her people alone. Some suicide mission. The Flame Dragon King heard her and said that she was not the elf he was looking for, but if she would become her bride, he could write off the insult. She agreed, and was taken by the Flame Dragon King before handing a medallion to Nellas. After the story, Rian commented how brave a person she was, to which Nellas agreed that she was strong and a kind elf. Gerard questioned if the Flame Dragon King had left, why they still immigrated from the western continent, to which Nellas said that they found Rummel's dead body in the forest, shocking everyone, and that he does not know anything that happened, and because of Rummel's death, they feared that the Flame Dragon King might attack them again. That's why they left the western continent and came to this land, probably to marry another elf, Elfussy Bangjing. As the talk continues, Sarah suggests that Rumil could be Ephael's mother because of her resemblance with Rumil, and even Nellis mistook her. Jared guessed that Ephael might be the child of Rumil and the Flame Dragon King, but Melfina corrected him that half-elves are born only between an elf and a human, not a dragon, and if the other half is a dragon, the blood concentration would be too high, but Kelvin strongly believed that it could be possible that Rumil might be Ephael's mother. Nellis apologizes to Ephael for the confusion, but Ephael assures them that she is fine not knowing her past and her parents, and she considers her teammates and Master Kelvin her new family, whom she can trust. This heartfelt moment made Sarah and Rian emotional as both started crying and tightly hugged Ephael. It is gay to feel emotional, fellas, stay strong. After such an emotional moment, Kelvin and Nellis talked about the actual problem. The Rank S promotion exams quest, which involves the village of elves being attacked by a new kind of monster that leads its underlings to kidnap the elves. Nellis explained that the forest is protected by magical barriers placed on the trees that can disrupt the directional perception, but the monsters seem to accurately locate the village. Kelvin knew that such barriers could be overcome by using skills. The monsters have attacked the village 3 times, but Nellis thought that the monsters seemed to focus more on kidnapping than the attack. Kelvin suspected such organized actions could not be taken by monsters. Nellis said that they tried to fight them but were powerless, and even the soldiers sent by Gon were powerless as well. Jared confidently tells Nellis to rest because they can put a stop to them, and Sarah and Rian swear to protect everyone. Ephael and Melfina also guaranteed to support them as well. I wish to see them fail due to their overconfidence, because damn, that are some balls. Nellis thanked everyone for their cooperation, then Kelvin requested to permit him to make minor changes in the village, and guaranteed that with his permission the monsters would not lay a single hand on any one of them, to which Nellis agreed, his teammates wondering what might be their master's plan, and Sarah guessed that it would be a small trap, and Jarrett feels sorry for their enemies. On the night of the full moon, the monsters came into the village of elves, but then it became clear that they were being controlled by the army of Trison. The soldiers were talking about the reinforcement from Gon, nowhere to be seen, and were laughing they might have run away after seeing the monster. The army colonel joked about keeping an eye on the ambush because of his enormous fleet, and wished to defeat Gon Kingdom as well. He was happy that General Tristan's plan was going well. One of the soldiers sitting on top of a monster asked how General Tristan got those collars, suggesting it to be a special item that even works on rank S monsters. The colonel said that according to the rumors he got it from a merchant who had been going in and out of the castle. Then suddenly the soldiers were hit by surprise arrows. The colonel was shocked to see, because he was sure he could have heard the archer if he was near, and that they were still a long way from the village of elves. Kelvin having his meth chemist White's moment. He is not in danger because he is the danger. More of the soldiers started getting hit by the arrows without even knowing what was going on, making the colonel quickly command his soldiers to hide behind the monsters because they could not even spot their enemies. Meanwhile, Kelvin and his companions have erected a watchtower and a barrier surrounding the village using the adamantine rampart, and Kelvin on top of it using his farsight skill, instructing Ephael to shoot the arrows using the hidden merciless bow of rank S, allowing her to shoot as far as she wants without making a noise, given as long as she infuses it with magic power. Melfina used her blue magic false fog, due to which no one can see outside the protective walls around the village of elves. The walls surrounding the village were also being greatly strengthened, and Sarah had cast a lot of black magic into the water. Even if a leaf fell in it, it exploded. If the enemy did come close, they could probably never get inside because of Gerard, who was assigned to guard the main gate to the village. They planned to capture the colonel to spit out all the information he had. Then Melfina, Sarah, and Rian prepared to battle the monsters and capture Colonel Kelvin, reminding them their main purpose is to protect the village and to avoid action that could destroy the village as they went forward. However, a soldier came running to tell the terrible news to his commander that the vanguard, the 4th Regiment, had been annihilated by an unknown enemy that had appeared before the village, and the colonel had been taken captive, suggesting they were not Gon's soldiers. The commander questioned who they might be. The soldier replied that they are a group of adventurers including 3 women and a shadow wolf who is strong enough to defeat the rank B monsters, and the army cannot march forward as the 5th Regiment is currently engaged in battle, who can also be defeated at any time. Seeing this, the commander was forced to use his trump card, and as he decided to use it, Melfina, Rian, and Shadow Wolf Alex came forward from the forest. No one would accept being beaten by a group of girls. Upon seeing both of them, the soldier ran out of fear, and the commander used the blowing horn to wake up the Gigant Lord, a colossal rank S monster who looked like a troll and was thousands of kilometers long. As the monster appeared, Rin was shown to be excited that such a thing was something to be straight out of a manga. Well, the only thing that should be exciting to her should be some kitchen appliances. Melfina suggested that Ryan and Alex should defeat the monster alone and gave a reason that if she and Alex were able to defeat it, then she would admit that Ryan is strong enough to fight and take care of her own from now on, and asked Ryan if she was up for the challenge. As the Gigant Lord roared boldly out loud, she thought in her mind that she has been training with Gerard every day, and brother Kelvin had been teaching her a lot of magic up to the point she puked. She became determined to prove herself that she could be able to defeat it all alone along with Alex, and is no longer a little sister who needs to be protected by others and wishes to protect others just like her teammates, only to see that a clone of Clotho was also accompanied by them as they went on to fight the monster. Like any other kid, she also wanted to become an adult quickly, only to regret it later. Melfina wondered in her thought that if she would exert all of her strength, she could defeat the Gigant Lord. The commander was filled with anger at the sight that only a little girl went to fight it, believing they underestimated them. As Ryan went to face the Gigant Lord, the monster gave a powerful punch toward the ground, but she and Alex skillfully jumped onto its arm and struck its nose. Surprisingly, Ryan attempted to strike a blow on its head, but her sword broke as she hit it. Oh, what a shame! The soldiers and commander were happy that she would not be able to defeat a rank S monster with a blunt sword. The monster gives her another punch from the ground midair, but she lands on the ground safely, realizing she would die if she gets hit once. Then she remembers Melfina's words and is convinced again to fight it. She, Alex, and Clotho went for another round of combat. Ryan told Clotho to give her more weapons, and it spit out 3 more swords, 2 for her and 1 for Alex, and told Alex to attack like a team. The Trison soldier was surprised to see her dual sword-wielding skill, wondering that such skill is only limited to heroes. She and Alex jumped again onto its arm to give their powerful blow. With the help of the demon sword called Bolg and the holy sword will that were forged by Kelvin for Ryan and Alex's lethal opiate sword, together they made the human wolf union, triple wield. Both of them transformed into a bright blue color of electricity surrounding the gigant's body and shouted the spell Thunderclap Edge. Suddenly, a lightning bolt struck it on the head from the sky, and the monster fell onto its knees. The commander, upon seeing this, commanded it to transform into its second state called the Gigant Furnace, and it mostly resembled a devil because of the devil-like crown and its entire body covered in fire. It was witnessed by everyone, but Melfina and Kelvin were reassured that Ryan would take care of it as well, but Sarah wished that she would be the one to fight it. The commander ordered it to use its hellish flame and burn her to ashes, but Ryan's decision to defeat it remained the same because she sensed that the monster's flame was inferior as compared to Yphail's, so she went to make another strike and hit it again with the Thunderclap Edge, and the colossal Gigant Furnace was defeated. Ryan lands safely on her feet along with Alex and Clotho and hugs Melfina as she rubs her head. The commander of the Trison army admitted his defeat and went on to his knees while the rest of the soldiers fled away. Kelvin and Yphail saw all the events from the watchtower as the commander was captured as well, and they were wondering about Ryan's strength. Then suddenly a powerful blast tried to hit Yphail out of nowhere, but Kelvin blocked it from his staff, protecting it. It was General Clive who had come flying through the sky with his 4 female warriors dressed in a bikini. He thought that the blast had finished Kelvin, but he missed. Kelvin realizes that Clive is strong. Never knew twink-looking guys could be that strong. General Clive comes floating in the sky with his slaves towards Kelvin and Yphail. He gets excited when he sees Yphail there. He brags about liking her at first sight, despite seeing many other elves, and asks her to be his slave, wondering what he needs so many slaves for. Alif, with a bow in her hand, freezes while hearing all of this. His special interest, despite having an entire harem, is shocking. His pupils rotate and obtain a different glowing form, indicating the activation of his Charm Eye ability on Yphail. Kelvin instantly blocks his Charm Eye and saves Alif. General Clive is irritated and asks him why he is doing this. Kelvin is angry that he used his Charm Eye on Alif. General Clive boasts about being the general of the Trison army and mocks Kelvin arrogantly by saying his skills are puny. Kelvin has enough of his haughtiness and says to him to get his hands away from his woman in a very protective manner. Here, all the subweaves must have turned gay. General Clive makes fun of his line and says it is an outdated one, and it is the first time he heard this in real life. General Clive mocks Kelvin's response as if he is arrogant and treats him like a peasant. The girls with daddy issues are probably loving the peasant treatment they are seeing. Kelvin gets serious and his eyes shine blue instantly, which indicates activation of his ability to analyze the eye. It enables him to see General Clive's stats. He is now seeing his stats, which state his full name and his power levels. Kelvin concludes, yet proceeds to ask the general if he is a reincarnator. General Clive shockingly asks if he likes to spy on others and admires his ability to read about him as his information is concealed rank A. He admires his analytical eye, which surpasses his concealment level. He figures out that he also must be a reincarnator to read that, and then he repeats Kelvin's question back to him as if he is also a reincarnator, while looking at him with a deadly glaze. Kelvin orders Ephale, who's standing beside him, to go towards the wall. Ephale agrees and wishes her luck while she flees and goes down the watchtower. She uses her ability for covert action to get out of General Clive's sight, which surprises him, and General Clive says to not go, which angers Kelvin. Kelvin yells at him to shut the heck up and swings his staff, which creates a strong wind that harmlessly blows off General Clive and his minions. Kelvin puts his hand on the watchtower and suddenly illuminates the whole watchtower. The crumbles into magical dust on the mountain he was on, and Kelvin also starts to float in the air. The magical dust then forges into 4 swords with them. The illumination ends with 4 obsidian edges, well made. He spots General Clive speedily flying towards him and launches one of his swords towards him. General Clive sees the sword approaching him and stops. When the sword is near him, he instantly activates the helix barrier to dodge his sword. The barrier ricochets it back away. General Clive looks down on him and calls him a mob again. They share a banter about the other one being the protagonist. His swords return in position with the other swords. All 4 swords are headed toward Clive. He activates his shield again. He shoots some magical laser beams from his staff, but they have no use against Clive's helix barrier. He then laughs and brags that it is of no use. No physical or magical attacks can get past his helix barrier, but he was startled that the swords did not pulverize when they made contact with his barrier. He admires Kelvin's solidly built swords and again repels them. Kelvin gets amazed by General Clive's power but then gets a smirk on his face, which mesmerizes Clive. Clive calls his smile creepy and then points out to Kelvin that his back is uncovered. Then one of Clive's slaves attacks him with their sword and he barely dodges them. His swords, covered in rainbow-like illumination, hold off the others while he holds off one of the ambushers by himself. He looks into the eyes of one of the slaves and sees they are under charm eye. He asks Clive why they are under a spell or control. He repels the attacker and angrily asks General Clive how dare he cast them under a spell. He dismisses them and asserts how happy they are to obey what he commands, and General Clive says it is 5 against 1. Kelvin is outnumbered. Kelvin confidently dismisses his claim. General Clive calls it a bluff and brags about crushing, then getting after Elif Chan as the victory prize. Suddenly, while completing his sentence, a constant magical beam penetrates his shield, but misses Clive. Clive is shocked that his gas penetration attribute, which his helix barrier could not stop. The camera is zoomed towards Ephale, pointing the bow at him, who uses her rank S arrow to make that attack. Kelvin now bragged about Clive being the outnumbered one. A crew of 4 golems floating in the air like Kelvin are now holding the obsidian swords reassembled, and they outnumber General Clive. General Clive is surprised to see golems. Kelvin says they were based on adamantite guardian and have bound a soul to give them free will and the ability to use skills. Clive knows it can only be done with black magic. He says that the idea is quite interesting. He calls his slaves kittens and tells them to play with those clunky big guys. Isn't that a lot for just kittens to handle? They all fly off to each golem. Kelvin knows they are bound by charm eye, so he instructs everyone not to kill them, as the spell can be driven away from them later. They approach the slaves and each is occupied equally, leaving only Kelvin and Clive. Clive summons his staff as well and agrees to play with him and approach him with his cape falling, and they fly off higher. Clive mocks him surprisingly that he can keep up with his speed and shoots beams at him. Kelvin easily dodges the beams and gets excited and shoots a beam at Clive. Then Clive dodges it with his staff, which mocks him that he did not even feel the need to deploy his helic barrier. Suddenly he uses them as Kelvin launches a barrage of his beams, which makes Clive activate his helix barrier. They fly off faster and shoot beams at each other epically while dodging each other's beam. General Clive is excited that he is keeping up, and jeeringly tells him he offers to take him in as his slave. Then Clive uses several Drithy beams, which track Kelvin. Kelvin keeps aeronautical dodging him, but they keep following him efficiently and swinging his staff, which dismantles the beams, and refuses to believe that he will never be his slave. Clive givingly says that's sad and tells him to die with a cold look on his face. He launches the second attack on Kelvin. In the second attack, upon missing Kelvin, he notices that General Clive's beams are redirected to target the golems and slaves, regardless of whom they might hit, be it the golems or a slave. When Kelvin points out that it is hitting General Clive's companions, General Clive laughs that it is fine. He arrogantly brags about how it is ok and he can easily replace them as he has plenty of replacements. Kelvin then gets triggered, and they pause. Clive asks him if he is tired of playing. He continues to laugh and teases him that Kelvin is the type of person who cares for them. He continues to brag about why he should care for them in this world. General Clive says this world is one of freedom without strict rules. They are the ones with the power to do as they please, like cheat codes. They can do whatever they want due to reincarnation, a power they did not have in their previous world. Kelvin looks at him angrily. He points out that Kelvin is also celebrating and enjoying his gained power. He deduces from Kevin's look that the powers made him blindly love fights and calls him Mr. Battle Junkie Kun. Kelvin agrees with his gain of power. It makes his heart beat with excitement for everything, and how much he achieved with his overwhelming powers. He has a quick flashback of his past life, probably pre-incarnation and his old days at the academy, but he dismisses General Clive's idea as too arrogant and selfish to be condescending to everyone around him. Clive angrily says he does not like his way of thinking. Kelvin also says likewise. General Clive uses his helix barrier and approaches Kelvin. Kelvin points his staff towards Clive and activates Vortex Edge, and his staff creates a gleaming drilling vortex. They both critically impact each other. Kelvin's eyes seem to be surprised as he notices that his staff is cracking slightly upon impact. Kelvin's staff was also destroyed as a result. General Clive is also panting as he notices a cut on his right cheek. He is enraged at being scratched and starts yelling. Kelvin seems calm as he is upset about the fact that his staff just got destroyed, but thanks it for holding out. He gives the staff to Clotho for safekeeping. Clotho opens his mouth, rests the staff on his face, and he easily swallows it. Clive is enraged and says it is unforgivable twice to him. Kelvin asks if Clive now knows the feeling of pain associated with that. A wake-up call of empathy to those whom Clive caused pain, but General Clive angrily tells him to shut up and threatens to erase him with what his true power holds. He points his staff towards Clive, and it starts to glow purple, a rank S spell. Kelvin acts eager to look forward to it. Clive's staff now releases some pink energy, and as he screams that don't underestimate him, the helix barrier is activated with more spells that can be seen for a second and turns into a huge purple wine tornado that encircles the whole battlefield. General Clive brags about its power, saying that it is comparable to that of a calamity and that it is unstoppable. The wind seems to clearly affect the villagers as well. He calls this ability the rank S Tempest Barrier. Clive and Kelvin's squad is now uncontrollably caught in the storm. Kelvin lands on a rock, watches the storm above him, and realizes this could be really bad. He then asks Clotho to take that out. Clotho understands and takes out the handle of a staff. As soon as Kelvin takes it out, he thanks Clotho as he summons the Black Staff of Disaster. Rank S Kelvin tells Clotho to hide, and he gets inside his collar. As he hides, Kelvin says that he is counting on the Black Staff of Disaster. General Clive laughs in the background as he continues to say that there is no escape. He won't let them escape. Everyone is looking up to Kelvin as the situation is far beyond what they can handle. Kelvin then takes a deep breath and holds the Black Staff of Disaster as he thinks to use it without hurting the forest in any way, as it is connected to a lift. The ground is under some spell, and it is emitting its own beam below Kelvin as he focuses his energy. Sarah is running away from the site when she sees Kelvin. She recognizes this dangerous ability and gets worried. Elif and the village leader are looking at Kelvin, and Yfael calls him master in awe as they're standing up close to a tree for support against the intense wind. Gerard is holding his position firmly while he is confirming that he has faith in his king Rien. While tying the commander of the Tristan army, look at the cataclysmic storm and wonder if Kelvin is fine. Mel contently deduces that Kelvin's probably having a joyous look on his face right now. Kelvin, who is glowing with his magic smiles with his eyes closed, says that although it is an incomplete and rushed product, he will be swinging it now as he swings the black staff of disaster. He is illuminating with the light emitting from the staff. Its sharp edge releases high-energy plasma. General Clive does not give a damn and says what would even happen if he does, and proceeds to yell at Kelvin as he approaches him. Kelvin tells him the same as he aims and jumps towards the general and strikes with Borea's death scythe. While the strike is closing in on Clive, he startles and can't hold his fear in, and when the strike is pulled off, it cuts his tornado in half horizontally and also effortlessly slices the mountaintop far behind the general. The sliced tempest barrier dismantles, and all the storms halt with it. Kelvin is exhausted from this attack and breathes tiringly while wondering if he missed. He says it looks like it needs some adjustments. Clive is lying on the ground, creating a crater with both of his legs cut off. He startles, then cries out loud in agony for his legs. Kelvin approaches quickly to end him while Clive is crying in pain. Kelvin then floats towards him immediately. General Clive is scared for his life and tells him to waiting in awe of mercy. Kelvin responds with a cold goodbye. Just when Kelvin strikes the death blow to his neck with the black staff's sharp edge, Clive closes his eyes but gets teleported or summoned. As Kelvin gets surprised, a voice comes from behind him to stop right there. When he turned around, he saw another general of Tristan floating behind him with a monster 10 times the size of him. The general sarcastically says to let's start with a nice to meet you. He continues to introduce himself as the general of the Chimera Legion in Tristan, Tristan Foz. He continues to introduce himself as the one who orchestrated the attack on the village of elves. He is standing on the forum of the monster, and General Clive, who is injured, is lying in his hands unconscious, while the other general introduces himself fancifully. Kelvin approaches him and acknowledges his confession, and threatens to make him atone for this too, but first asks him to hand over Clive. General Tristan Foz refuses, saying he still has some uses for General Clive. Kelvin I was surprised to be asked about that mood just now, that spell, as it was a summoning spell, and realizes it is no ordinary summoning spell. He admires the monster for having an interesting skill. The monster accompanying the general seems very huge and strong, built from strong metal. General Tristan Foz smirks and is intrigued that he knew this much. It is admirable to see that Kelvin is well versed in the art of summoning. He continues to admit it and sarcastically declares the day a win for Kelvin, and to retreat as losers do so in a mocking manner. He then instantly disappears, and in doing so he says we will meet again someday. Black Summoner. Kelvin stares in a freezing manner till he hears Elif asking him if he is okay. Kelvin says he is fine and inquires about everyone else. His team is on the ground, and everyone excitedly admires that rank S spell, and that he finally got to use a rank S spell. Everyone admires that his rank S spell was better than the one that General Clive used and that he is way too awesome. Mel looks at Kelvin with a smile and supposes it counts as a lose-lose battle for him. Gerard asks what happened to the enemy general. Kelvin, who tiringly floats in a lying position midair with Clotho, is on his chest. He apologizes to him, saying that he got away. He says that he is heading towards the village now. She agrees and requests that he be careful. Kelvin, with a good smile on his face, looks at his chest where Clotho is and says, "All right, let's go back to where everyone is, partner." Clotho makes a cute happy sound. End scene. The villagers are in a cave, and the elf elder outside shockingly asks if it is true. Elif affirms and tells the elder that the rank S monster and general from the Tristan army have been defeated, and their enemies have been annihilated, and happily announces that they managed to protect the village successfully. The elder and the villagers are all happy and excited. The elder tells everyone to prepare the feast, a grand feast in gratitude for their heroes, and everyone happily agrees. Elif is happily smiling. Jared interrupts her smile with a however and proceeds to point out that when General Clive laid his eyes on Alif, Kelvin did yell to not lay his hands on his woman. Alif gets shocked, and Jared proceeds to point out that it is no ordinary sentence for a man to use, and he admires her. She gets startled and shy, as she is surprised by the fact that he knows. Jared says he heard everything. Alif tells him she got happy after what Master said, but that's all. While completing the sentence, suddenly Kelvin silently lands behind her and asks if she was talking about him. It startled Alif completely. While she tried to explain it, she turned steamy and red, then fainted. Kelvin is surprised to see this expression and asked her what's wrong. She is on the ground with a shy, steamy faint. But Gerald tells Kelvin that she will be fine. Kelvin sees the princess, and the others are coming back too. The three are racing. Sarah says that she won't lose this time. Mel keeps up and says that she can see Gerard at the finish line. Kelvin is confused and asks them what they are doing. They three say in unison to see who will get to be praised first. Kelvin now understands, as the three insanely race towards Gerard as their finish line for Kelvin's praise. Rian improvises a spell while riding Alex, which sped her boltingly. Mel and Sarah are shocked to see this, and Rian wins the race. Rian manages to touch Gerard first and wins the race, while Sarah is upset that Rian touched Gerard first. Rian is happy that the spell she just came up with worked. Sarah is upset that losing to Mel is acceptable, but losing to Rian is unbelievable. Mel is happy and tells Sarah that we should be happy to see Rian's progress. Sarah woke up and agreed with Mel. She congratulates Rian, and Rian thanks both of them while hugging and petting Alex. Rian then happily tells Kelvin that she has something to tell him. She proceeds to tell him how she defeated the powerful and huge monster all on her own. Kelvin tells her that she did really well while approaching and pats her on the head. Rian giggles happily, and Gerard pats Alex on the head and praises him too. Everyone cheers up with happy smiles on their faces. Kelvin looks at the beautiful sight of the moon at night and realizes that if he had taken a wrong, careless step somewhere in handling the team, the tables could have been turned and he would end up like the defeated General Clive. Back at the Trison Castle, a strange door opens, and the shadow of General Tristan appears. General Clive's hands and feet are chained while he is lying unconscious on the table. Reminds me of something I can't discuss on the internet. General Clive opens his eyes as footsteps approach him. General Tristan Foz asks Clive if he is now awake. Clive realizes that he is chained and asks what place this is. He tries to move, but his legs are chained as well, with many guards holding different purple glittering weapons. General Tristan Foz looks in a malicious way at him and tells General Clive not to worry, as his legs are healed. He angrily looks at General Tristan Foz and asks, "What's the meaning of this, Foz?" and gets struck by a purple glowing weapon and screams with agony. Tristan Foz tells him that Jaldora prepared 1342 cursed weapons that were to be tested on him. An experiment, for he can heal as he is an incarnator, a punishment as he lost. He sets up a guard in charge of healing him so he may not die as a result of this experiment. All the guards end up stabbing him with many cursed weapons. The villagers are celebrating with joy, while Kelvin is sitting far away, seeing them enjoy. Ephale approaches him, finally finds him there, and asks if something is bothering him. He admits that he feels lucky to have been reincarnated in this world. How precious an experience it is to have met everyone. He takes a vow to use his powers to protect everything, and it does not have to lose anyone. He suddenly hears a voice that says that he does not want to regret it anymore, which surprises him. Must be the kid in my basement. He sees a box in her hand and asks what it is. She says it is her mother's keepsake. She is glad to cross paths with this village, and how a half-elf like her was welcomed by everyone. She got to know her mother, and he asked her if she would put it on. She asked for his help to put it on. He puts it on her and admires her. She vows to work hard and confesses her wish to serve by his side for the rest of their lives. He smiles and accepts how cared for he will be. Gerard and the others walk to them. Sarah is drunk while Mel is having some snacks on the go. A little villager elf hugs her for protecting the village. She laughs and reveals that this is not her real form. Rather, she is the real Beast King, Leonhardt gone. Everyone is shocked. She also reveals she has been watching them all in this form, camouflaging as a young elf villager, and praises Kelvin. They proceed to congratulate him for passing the exam. He is now promoted, and everyone is happy. She tells him that the promotion ceremony will be held in 4 days. There will also be mock battles against other S-rank adventurers. Upon hearing the news that he will get to fight other S-rank adventurers and that this event of his promotion will be celebrated throughout the kingdom, Kelvin uncontrollably burst with joy and excitement. In excitement, he wonders about how the others will compete with him. He is a battle junkie. After all, Sarah admits his bad habit of being attracted to battles. So does Elif confirm. Now they are off those who are stronger than them.